But no, Beth goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory. Hello everybody and welcome back for more CVRcade World Cup bracketed session. My name is CVRcade and as always I will be guiding you through all the action as you watch physical esport history being made on the various tracks of CVRcade. If you are a returning visitor, you know what you're about to witness. Riders from all across the world, all different genders, all different backgrounds of cycling, they're going to race virtually and they're all competing in that prize purse of $25,000. The bracketed session that we're currently in. The first 3 weeks, they're racing for seedings because that last week is going to be the all-important tournament that's coming up. It's got everybody a bit on edge because they are not used to it, but we'll see as they try and race and move up the cycle data rankings. Today we got 4 races ahead of us. Kayla's mountain track is the first race. It is the no-skill event of the day. Temple Run comes up next. That is a race that's been dominated by Team CVRcade and Velocity Vixen in the past. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds today. Dark Matter Velo makes a return somewhere around the world. Timothy Tamont is applauding the events team. And then, last but not least, we finish out in space on Saturn Circuit complete with 4 laps. It's going to be good racing today. I hope you've got your beverage of choice because for the next 2 hours, it's going to be non-stop action using your legs as controllers. The winner of Zone K last Tuesday is returning here for Thursday's racing. Quentin, you were ill when we spoke to you on Tuesday. That didn't stop you from winning. How is the body feeling today?
It's feeling quite tired from Tuesday still, so I think that this is the moment where I feel my illness, that I don't really recover all that well in between omniums. But I'll just give it a go again today, so we'll see how it goes.
Do you think there's a target on your back after coming out and dominating in the fashion you did on Tuesday?
I wouldn't really say I dominated, because, I mean, I pretty much died in the last race. I just got lucky to win the second and third one. But, yeah, I mean, everybody will have an eye out for everybody on here.
Well, we'll see how it goes, Quentin. I wish you luck in the first no-skill event of the day. We've also got Casey, and if we can get a quick word, because he was the one trying to chase down Quentin and race towards the top. Casey, you see Quentin is sick. Is this the chance for you to take that top spot on the podium?
Yeah, maybe. The fourth race really hurt me on Tuesday, so the fourth race better suits me today. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little fatigued from riding a lot yesterday, training hard, so we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Casey. 1 minute to go. Those are your racers. As you can hear, we've got several other racers on the broadcast as well. Kayla Laguna, we'll hear more from them as they just get ready and set up for the racing at hand. You got Ben Shuilong, who's been up and coming in terms of the standings and the results and the omniums as of late. He makes a debut in the bracketed session. Joyce DeSmith is back in. She's got a new and improved camera angle, so we'll see the suffering from a whole new level. We've got Frank Garcia as well, ready as he's just turning up or down the audio on the laptop or on the screen or whatever he's racing on. But 20 seconds to go. This is the bracketed session. This is esports history, physical esports. These racers are racing using both their keyboard and their legs. Combined, they try and do the best they can do. But the no skill event, which you're about to see, is the race where we've got the training wheels on. There's no crashing because you've got uncrashable. There's no sliding out because you've got corner caper, and you can phase through other riders as you have got quantum shift on. But from the gate, Kim Fairchild with an acceleration there from Team CVRcade. Good to see him in amongst the action, and he has made the first selection. Good to see him up there. Neil Stewart usually want to make it this early on, but he's just 2 seconds off the back as we see Frank on the screen. Quentin Molyneux. Everyone's eyes will be on the Team Cycling Hub member. There's no Tim Fulford, there's no Nils Heldens, there's no Timothy Tamont. Can the sole rider make it 2 Zone K victories in a row? Everybody's racing for that seeding, and when you look at the CVRcade Riders Forum, there's a lot of talk. How is the tournament going to unfold? How is the seeding? Everybody is very excited, but also very nervous, as it'll be win or go home once you get to that last week. You see Casey on the right, Quinton on the left. Both very strong competitors, different backgrounds, but thanks to physical equalization here on Kayla's Mountain Track, they're able to race and compete at a level playing field. Ben Shuilong, C, whatever. A lot of C's I always get it wrong, so we may as well add a few more to there. May as well change the C's to W's at this point, as CCC have just been dominating coming into the end of the opening session, but they've yet to really put their foot down here in the bracketed session, and we'll see if today will be the day that is changed. They've got Thomas Tippling, they've got Ben Shuilong in here, and I think they've got Homer Thompson racing later as well, so the yellow jerseys will try to see if they can leave their mark. We've got Carl Axel Sander racing, but he was supposed to be on stream, but unfortunately due to some technical difficulties, he hasn't been able to make it in quite yet. But he's been racing strong, and Velocity Vixen is another team that are bringing the numbers recently. As we watch from the side, you can see all the different team colors. The reason why they're phasing through each other is due to the fact that they've got Quantum Shift as an ability. You can see it on the nearby riders list, and we go through this progression in the racing. We start with a no skill event, which is a very rude name because the skill required to time your sprint or attack away is quite significant. But here you essentially have training wheels on, you get in, you warm up, you get accustomed, because the next 3 races, slowly but surely, we take the right training wheels off, we take the left stabilizer off, and then it gets very exciting as the crashing does intensify at the top. Frank Garcia is at 146 equalized heart rate, so not too tired at this point, not too nervous. He's sitting in there, he's been here before. These racers have done the no skill event so many times by now, and it comes down to who wants to upset the rhythm? Who wants to throw some anarchy in there and say, we're all waiting for a sprint, look around, I know you are, I know you are, I know I am, but I don't want that to be the case. And we continue to look around. Joyce DeSmith, unfortunately, has been distanced further back from the group, down in 10th place. We go back up to the front as it is Team Experimental. They've got 2 racers in here, so Christian Weidman and Casey Shum. Casey will be happy to get some support today because he's been racing alone a lot as Carl Axel Sander. Christian Weidman here on the incline. They're choosing to up the pace. Everybody following in, but the draft is so powerful. 1 kilometer remaining. Once they cross that finish line, they've got 1 more lap, but Carl Axel Sander is accelerating. We look to the back. Quentin Molyneux is sitting in, but Carl Axel Sander is trying to give this some on the front. 700 equalized watts from the Swede. The Velocity Vixen here. He is trying to do something. I commend the effort, but the blob effect behind him is so powerful, and it wasn't meant to be. As Carl Axel Sander, he will now get spat out the back of the group, and will have to accelerate again. 700 meters to go. The action is on now. This is it. Do or die in the 1 scoring multiplier event. Quinton losing touch with the group as we go on board, and I think he's trying to load up a comeback kit as 1 rider, Joyce, gets lapped. Quinton, we watch the comeback kit. There it goes. But is it too little too late? On the front, you've got Casey Shum as well. Both now getting ready for the sprint. 300 meters to go. Comeback kit from Rick. Comeback kit from Quinton as they're trying to catch up, but it's gonna be Ben Shuilong on the front as Casey Shum finally comes through on the inside. And Casey Shum will take the victory. He's happy with that one. That was a tough sprint. Quinton tried to get cute with the power-up, with the comeback kit, go off the back of the group. He gets penalized, gets punished down in 8th place. Let's try and look at that sprint as Casey attempts to recover, as we've got 3 more races coming up in Zone K. I thought Ben for a second had it, but you watch Quinton. Quinton loads up the comeback kit power-up side by side. You can see Quinton trying to get back on, but it's just too little too late. Casey in the middle of the group uses his comeback kit just for a little bit of boost. And then Ben, Casey, and Casey finally takes that win on no skill event. He's been chasing that one, and now he takes it in front of Carl Axel Sander. Congratulations, Casey. It looked like you really wanted that race.
Yeah, that was a hard sprint. I've been struggling with finishing that one well. If you let any gap go, you can't close it. You just got to stay in the group, and at about 300 meters, just go. I don't know if the comeback kit helps me or not, but I hit it even if it gives me 2 seconds of a boost. It's all timing. It was good effort there. Carl Axel made a run with 2 laps to go. I just trusted the blob to pull it back.
You got Christian Whiteman in here, your teammate from Team X. We're about to come into the long race of the day. How much does that mean to you to have somebody prior to the race starting knowing that you're on the same page?
Yeah, it helps having some support out there when you see those jerseys around you. If you look closely, there's 3 Team X jerseys floating around here, so you can see if you can figure that out.
Wait, there's a 3rd one. Wait. Now I gotta go through and figure out who the 3rd one is. Anyway, Casey, Temple Run coming up. It's the tough one. Which other team are you looking at? There's CCC, there's Team CVR, there's Team Cycling Hub. Who are you looking to change this up, or Velocity Vixen?
Well, Quinton's always going to be tough with the Cycling Hub team. And then Velocity Vixen, those guys have always been strong, wanting to make moves, and they've got numbers. So those are probably going to be the ones to watch the most right now.
I like it. We'll see how it goes. Ben was 3rd in the last race. Ben, I thought you had it. I saw you on the front. The gap was opening up. I'm like, Ben! And then Casey shuts the door. How does that feel to be so close yet so far away?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm glad I didn't actually sprint too hard. But with one person on the front, I thought if I get into 2nd place, maybe I can pop the comeback kid and get that little sprint to get past the first man, but it wasn't to be. But I hung on for 3rd, so that's all good.
It's a long day of racing ahead. Temple Run coming up now, Ben. You've been racing well recently. Temple Run here. It's 14.5 Ks. What's the strategy from you?
Try and make the break. I think generally there's usually been 2 or 3 people going off the front on this race on the first lap, and typically I've got caught out by that, and I've always ended up in the 2nd group. So try and make the 1st group. That's the aim today.
Easier said than done, but Ben, we'll watch you try and see if you can execute on that game plan. It sounds like a good one. You've got the scoreboard down to the bottom. You've also got the scoreboard on the screen. Casey, Carl, Ben, they come into this race with an advantage, but as we've seen before in CVRcade World Cup racing, the first race, it sets the tone, but it doesn't define the racing going ahead. Second race is a low skill event. Then we have the high skill event, and those 2 races combined made out the majority of the points last Tuesday for Quinton Molyneux to win. Now, with 10 seconds to go, we watch the racers get ready again. It is usually Frank Garcia who accelerates from the gun. You heard what Ben Shuilong said on these races. You get one rider to go off the front and then a few follows, and then if you get caught in the secondary group, it is sometimes all over. But from the gun here, nobody using their power-ups just yet. We look around. You have one wind at your back, 1 Racer's Edge, and 1 Quantum Ship for 3 laps as Kim Fairchild uses his at the back. Kayla Laguna back into the racing. She's been a force to be reckoned with in the open session, but here in the bracketed session last Tuesday, yet to really put a mark down. There's a lot of racers here in the second part of the CVRcade World Cup that starts to look around and go, right, this is my time to shine. And it'll be interesting to see who pulls through. It's a long 4 weeks, 3 week seeding, 1 week tournament. Anything can happen with all this racing coming up. We saw in the previous open session what happened in week 1 and 2 may not be the case in week 3 and 4, but Joyce DeSmit, the Velocity Vixen rider, she's off the front here with Ben Shuilong. He is antsy, he's sitting there, he does not want to lose out on this move. Neither does Quinton Molinese. There is a wind in this race, 7 kilometers an hour, as right now they're riding straight into a headwind. So it's all about finding that position. Quinton and Frank on the front. You can see Casey in that very patented position of leaning over, one hand on the keyboard, wanting to get every single pedal stroke out while not having to worry about finding himself on the track. So you see one long line searching for the draft, searching for that echelon, and there's a lot of different ones and ones and ones up here to the front. Ben Shuilong, you heard what he said in his pre-race interview. It's all about finding that initial breakaway. It's all about finding that initial move. Can you get in there? Because on Tuesday, every race on Rocky Mountain had 4 riders in a breakaway. It stuck away, it did not come back. Allison was able to bridge across, but she was quite spent at that time. And everybody knows this. And with Team Experimental having numbers, I'd be wary of Casey and Christian, because they do. Christian has this as his preferred zone. He is showing up and wanting to put down the pressure. Joyce at the back here, the Velocity Vixen rider. She's got Jeff Rooney with her. She's missing Beth. She's missing, you know, the usual suspects. Vibeke. She's missing other riders. Carl Axel Sander is in the back of the group here as she just bumps into Ben. 3 Velocity Vixen riders all making up the rear as there's a lot of jostling for the position here. It's antsy. It's nervous. You can feel the energy. Overlapping wheels. Not necessarily blocking on purpose. But as you're searching for the draft, as you're moving left and right, you overlap wheels. And because you have Uncrashable as an ability, you don't crash, but you do slow down. But look at the intensity of Joyce's face. She knows what she has to do here. Find the draft, save as much energy as possible, but the equalized heart rates are coming up. On the front, it's Frank Garcia laying down the pain here. He did make a post on the CVRcade Riders Forum saying that he is not racing for any of the points. He's taken himself out of the points gathering aspect of the CVRcade World Cup, but that doesn't mean he can't be a good team player. And I think he's looking here to help Kayla Laguna get a good result today. And he's now on the front applying the pressure with Christian Whiteman, who's at 191. Kayla just off the back a tiny bit, so Frank's acceleration catching a few out. As you can see, Quinton on the left, Ben on the front in the yellow. Words cannot start to describe how tense this is. And Quinton accelerating. He's not happy with the status quo. He's going to see, is anyone going to bite? Frank Garcia, second place. He is biting. And this is the move. Where is Ben? Where is Casey? Where's Kayla? Call Jeff. Everybody understands this is the place to be. In the pre-race interview, Ben said, I have to be with the move. But now, when the move is happening, he's sitting at the back of the pack. Is it calm? Is it collected? Or is it slowly starting to unravel under that stare to the screen? Christian is down here. Casey is further up. And as we've crested Temple Run Hill for the first time, a 2-man breakaway has 3 seconds. And we zone in on Ben Shuilong, CCC's champion. But unfortunately, he's just letting go a tiny bit. Carl Axel Sander, Casey Shum on the front here. They understand. They've been here before. These 4 riders have found themselves in breakaways before, and we could see another repeat of that. But Casey's keeping it calm. He's not panicking just yet with Frank and Quinton up there. He's sitting in. Usually we see Casey taking a turns, but Carl seems quite intent on just closing down this gap on his own. 52 k's an hour. He is making the moves. We look back now. Joyce DeSmit also taking a relatively calm approach. She's got her Velocity Vixen team member on the front. Christian gets past. Now she leaves Ben as well. And she's out of the draft, which means she might have to put in a bit of an effort. So the reason why all the avatars are moving left and right is because CVRcade has taken realistic, real-life cycling physics and implemented them in a game. That was long thought to be impossible, but when you hear from these races, when you watch the gameplay, it looks like real cycling. It feels like real cycling. And that's what you see on the front. When you don't take a turn, you get penalized. When, as Joyce, she doesn't have to avoid the rock because she has Uncrashable, but when you see an obstacle, habit says, right, I gotta get out of the way. So, Kayla sitting up here. The reason why that breakaway happened is Quinton obviously feels like he's got more to give and he's not satisfied with the pace in this group. So he tries to attack and see, is anyone with me? Is anyone going to come across? And then we can keep the pace high and drop the rest. This is a strategy we often see from the likes of Tim Fulford, Frank Garcia, Casey Shum, Mo T.P. Kelney, because they would rather be 4th out of 4 than 9th out of 9. And you can guarantee your positioning by spending some energy early on. Christian has been dropped from the group. 4 seconds down. That is one member of Team Experimental being dropped. So Casey, despite having a teammate in here, I don't think he'll do any of the pacing, but he is one man down already. Thomas Tippling staying with the bots. The bots are only 8 seconds down. If we go down to Thomas Tippling, who is here with Orville, with Howard, with Robert, with Rick, they're just up the road. I mean, this pace, they're just casually riding around. Well, casually. They're fighting for the position. It's more casual because early stages of the CVRcade World Cup, the races were going absolutely mental. But I think riders learned over time as they evolved that if you spend your energy very concentrated, you can get much further, much quicker. And so instead of from the gun, just flying it and just dialing it in, you sit in, you get comfortable, and you've got team members, you've got teammates. That was not something we saw in the early days of the racing, but now as the racing evolves, as more users get on the platform, suddenly strategies that worked in the past no longer work now because Team CVR have a member to chase you down. Velocity Vixen is happy to send a rider up there. Team Cycling Hub is happy to as well, but if we were to take a status report, if we were to take a stuck update at this point, there are a few riders in here that have to do something. There's a few riders at a disadvantage. Ben Shuilong, CCC, Team Cycling Hub, Quinton Molyneux, Casey Shum, Team Experimental. They are riding solo, while Team CVRcade have 2 riders in Frank and Kayla, and Velocity Vixen have 3 in Joyce, Carl, and Jeff. As Casey moves to the front. We've seen Casey do this before. Just under the radar while no one is looking. Increasing the pace. He knows nobody's on his wheel. And this is how you make a breakaway. So Casey and Quinton. I think Quinton is gearing up to bridge across to Casey in a second. Because Casey has got a gap. And if you don't notice it, he will be gone. 440 equalized watts from Casey Shum. You see Casey on the right, Quinton on the left. There goes Quinton. This is what they were waiting for. The bridge is being made now as Quinton Molyneux stands up and no one is reacting except for Frank Garcia. He is on the wheel, but now Casey and Quinton will try to work together. Frank Garcia down in 3rd is going to bridge across. This move could very well stick here on Temple Run. Frank's going to go over the top. 169 equalized heart rate. He's got a bit to give here. Quinton Casey further down. Joyce DeSmith in fourth. As you can see, she's trying to bridge across with her team member, Carl Axel Sander of Sweden. This is the decisive moment. This is the moment. You've got to be on it, because this is where the race makes or breaks for you and your team. 4 riders up in the front. So 3 riders, all from individual teams. And Velocity Vixen have to do something here. Ben Shuilong has to do something here. They're being caught out, and that's what we're seeing. Because on CVRcade, because it's real life physics, real life cycling brought indoors, 1 second, 2 seconds can quickly grow out to 4 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds with good teamwork. But you see Joyce, she was assertive in her decision making, and she's bridged across. Kayla found herself being forced to use Razor's Edge. Ben Shuilong has been popped, so not making the initial breakaway. Kayla doing what she needed to do, just sit in and relax, but she chose the wrong wheel. The wheel of Ben Shuilong turned out to be a dot, as she now has to use a Razor's Edge power-up to bridge up and burn a match. But she looks like she knows what she's doing, and she's got more to give. It'd be good to see Kayla return to top peak shape here in CVRcade World Cup racing fashion. But it was Casey who initiated that move. Casey Shum, he does this, and this is, in the history of CVRcade racing, the gameplay dynamics evolve, because what works one week may not work another, and every racer has different styles. Peter Kastrup has a very easy to spot style of accelerating, deaccelerating. Casey, I've seen him do this once or twice before. Not accelerating, but while everybody else is looking, he just ups the pace, and people think, somebody else is going to get that. Somebody else is going to get that. And suddenly, after the doorbell has rung 10 times, so the phone has been ringing for 2 minutes, Casey's up the road and's got a significant gap, forcing other riders to react. With 7 kilometers to go, Quentin Molinez was there, and he does seem to have the legs. But sometimes when you get overeager, that's when you spend too much energy in the earlier stages, as Kayla comes on through, and Kayla Laguna puts in an attack here. 500 equalized watts. Just seeing once again, it's Quentin Molinez. Quentin is there again. He wants this win. He wants this race. He understands what the 2x scoring multiplier here on Temple Run means to him, as he's the first one to close it down. But we've seen this before with Alison Kubota. We've seen this before with Moti P. Kelney. If you do too much work, other riders are going to take advantage of you, come in to the closing stages of the race. A lap and 2 kilometers left is all that remains here in Temple Run, and the racing is wide open. These racers are racing for a share of $25,000 in the prize purse. Kayla will no longer do any of the pacing on the front. She's got a teammate chasing in Frank Garcia. She understands that Quentin Molinez has the kick required on the front to really break things up. But Joyce, Carl Axel Sander, they're there every time. 6 riders. Ben Shuilong, though, is coming back. So while the cat and mousing is happening, he's using a Razor's Edge on this descent into the wind. He's trying to do it. I think this is a tailwind about to turn into a headwind, as he is coming through this now. And he's used Razor's Edge, a very powerful power-up. And now he's trying to close down that gap to the front. And that's essentially a really smart move, because that power-up is not going to do much later on if you're not in the front group. So sacrificing the Razor's Edge to get back in and have a chance at a higher position is a great decision here from Ben, and I think we might see Jeff do some of the same, but I did see him use wind at his back earlier. Frank Garcia sits in here. What will he do? You can see on the faces, it's not necessarily easy racing. Like, it may look, when you look at the equalized heart rates, 170, 185, but the normalized power, having to react to these attacks, is not simple, because you're sitting at threshold, you're sitting at, you know, a higher pace, and then you have to go above to come back down, to go above to come back down. And it comes down to who can recover, who saved energy, and who has that killer blow when the time comes. Because the rubber band has been stretching, and it's only about time before it just explodes, before it just snaps. And whoever's on the winning side of that will have a good race here in the Omnium. But last lap now on Temple Run. Really exhilarating racing here as we go back to Quinten. And Quinten and Casey, they're sitting first and second on the podium right now. The virtual podium as it moves around. Which of these two? I think everybody's eyes looks onto them as the rematch of Tuesday's racing in Zone K. But while that happens, some of the other racers, they may just go unnoticed. Quinten gets a swig of the bottle. He hydrates and gets ready for more racing at hand. But this is what it's come down to. Like, everybody has been increasing their awareness when it comes to Omnium racing. You can't just dig deep in one race because you have to perform over 4. And Quinten may be a tiny bit scared, a tiny bit, feeling it from the last zone that he did where he blew up in the last race. Now, I would go and talk to some of these riders, but it's so tactical and anyone could attack at any moment. So on Tuesday, we spoke to a few riders here. As the bots get back, the bots have come back. I cannot believe it. This is amazing racing. So Rick gets back in. That's another racer for Team CVRcade. Thomas Tiberling is just on the back. Christian Weidman gets back in. He's just off the back here. He uses wind at his back because his race, one moment to the other, looked over. But the bots have just incrementally gotten their way back. And now Christian Weidman with Racer's Edge and wind at his back. He should go right over the top. Attack, Christian. This is where you go. This is where you make the move. Nobody saw you. And Christian Weidman, can he do it? He needs to dig deep. This is his moment. Nobody saw that one coming. And Quinten on the front, accelerating. Joyce, Kayla. If Christian fully had the belief in himself there, what he does as he comes from the back, having used both power-ups, you commit everything. You throw the kitchen table, you bet all in on the kitchen sink, and you hope that there's no washing up to do. Because that's what you have to do in that situation, as Kayla now moves to the front. Because everybody gets caught off guard. They're not seeing the bots are coming back. They're not seeing Christian attacking. And they're too busy looking at certain individuals that they may not see an underdog from way far back that you counted out earlier as... This is some of the best racing. I keep finding myself saying this every week, but this is some of the best racing, and it keeps evolving every week here in the CVRcade World Cup. Very realistic bike racing happening on the screen. Ben Shuilong. Oh, never mind. We have an attack. Quantum Shift, Racer's Edge, wind at his back. Frank Garcia is attacking on the hill. This is the move now. I know I said it before, but this, I believe, is the move. Frank goes. Quinten Molinez, second wheel, also uses all 3 power-ups to bridge across. You can see him standing up. He's got the tunes in his head. He's got the cap on. He's trying to bridge across as he then uses wind at his back. He needs to dodge Frank, and he does. Further back, Ben Shuilong, Quantum Shift, wind at his back. He's saving, so he's used the Racer's Edge. So with 2.9 kilometers to go on the steepest inclines of Temple Run Hill, it's all coming down to this. Ben Shuilong is going. Casey is saving his power-ups. He may be a bit fatigued here from the riding yesterday, you heard, but he's still got his power-ups. And I think he's loading up for a big attack later on. On the front, Frank, Quinten, Carl, Axel Santer. The 3 bandits have broken away now, and it's down to the chasers to try and get them back. They crest the top. This is it. No more climbing on Temple Run today for these 3 in Zone K. Frank's on the back, sitting on the wheel of Quinten Molinez. Carl, Axel Sander on the front. The echelon, the wind's coming from the right down to the left. And Frank is getting that advantage, but it's about to change any minute now. Christian Weidman has come to the front further down. And now you'll see the 2 different chasing groups. You've got the breakaway, the leading 3 racers, but none of them are really happy to take a turn. You've got Casey on the right. He's got Christian Weidman helping him. The gap is 10 seconds though, but it could very well come back together if they don't work together on the front. Will they be happy with this? Carl has done his turn. Quinten comes to the front, 190, but further back the races continue here as Quinten comes to the front. Joyce DeSmit, wind at her back as she's trying to get back on terms with the chasing group. Casey Shum uses his racer's edge, and this is the move for the American of Team Experimental. He's going to come around Ben Shuilong, and the gap is down to 6 seconds. Wind at his back. This is the salvo. This is the combination for Casey on the descent. Very clever racing here as he's going to make connection to the front three. But will he go over the top? Will he do what Christian Weidman almost did? You see, Carl Axel Santer, quantum shift from Casey, quantum shift from Carl, and this is gonna be an intense finale. Carl Axel Santer with the wind at his back. Casey's still there. Quantum shift. He is hanging on. He's done so much. And with 1 kilometer to go, Casey versus Quinten versus Carl versus Frank. And there is not much left here. Quinten, Frank have used all their power-ups. Casey at this point has used their power-ups, but Carl Axel Sander is running away with it. But there's still 900 meters to go, and if they can link up, if they can get together, the two riders could work in tandem. But the advantage right now falls to Carl Axel Sander, but he's also at 200 equalized heart rate. Him being alone means that he can ride on his own. He doesn't have to worry about taking somebody to the sprint. It is 600 meter time trial, everything you've got to the finish line, and you got to stay with it. And we'll see if the Velocity Vixen rider can stick with it. Casey Shum now might just be recognizing that it's second place finish in this one, as Casey and Quinten are coming up now to the finish line here. Zone K does have Casey, Ben Shuilong, Carl Axel Sander. They all have this as preferred zone, so they're getting a lot of points. Carl Axel Sander, 200 meters to go. He will take a very well-deserved victory. But now, head-to-head sprint between Quinten and Casey now. Who will it be for second place on Temple Run? Both stand up. Quinten is giving it everything on the left, and Casey, can he come around? No, he says, can't do, and he looks distraught, that one. Quinten versus Casey side by side. Now further back, Joyce DeSmit will take Frank Garcia to the line as she takes valuable point ahead of Frank, ahead of Ben. As you can see, Ben, nothing left. That was a tough race on Temple Run. Secondary sprint here, Kayla versus Christian, but Christian Weidman, I think Kayla kept something back, but Christian came around and takes valuable points. What a race! That was never over until like the last 200 meters. We've got some highlights to show you because that was phenomenal racing on Temple Run. Carl Axel Sander striking the last blow, taking the win there. I mean, phenomenal racing all around, especially that sprint finish in the end. You see Casey, Quinten, side by side into the corner. Quinten having the fresher leg, spinning the higher cadence, getting the advantage. And when Casey ramps it up to sprint, there just isn't enough left. And you can see Casey smiling, knowing that one is gone. But there's still plenty of racing ahead now as we get ready for the race. And Quinten, second place in that last race. That was a bit of a roller coaster of a race. I mean, it looked like you guys were going to stay away, and then the peloton came back, and then it broke up again. Talk me through that race from your perspective.
I was really just struggling to stay with the group once we broke off, because I think I responded to too many attacks, so I set my own legs a little bit too much. And then when Frank went for the last time and I crossed, I was just hoping that we stayed away. But I saw Casey coming back, and I knew he would have like the better timing on his power-ups being over the top of the climb. So I knew I couldn't stay away from Casey. And then Carl apparently had all his power-ups left, so it was GG once I saw them both coming past me with a quantum shift.
That sprint with Casey, how do you play that out? You know you're going into a one-on-one sprint. What's the secret for taking the win?
I think I got an edge by going to the right side of Casey before we went into the last corner, which meant that I could keep him to the outside of the corner until I wanted to go to the inside and hopefully get a little bit of a jump on him. I don't know if that was the only thing that won me the sprint, but I mean, it was one hell of a tough race, so props to Casey.
It looked that way, and we've got Casey in the stream as well. She saw the suffering unfold, and we're watching the sprint again, Casey. Anything you want to do differently in that last race, Casey?
Maybe wait the bridge a little bit longer, because I kind of came over top and then they came back on me. So I just didn't have a sprint. For whatever reason, a head-to-head sprint is tough for me. Because I sprint so hard at the beginning of the races, my power curve on the sprint is really high. So at the end of a race, I don't have a big pop. So yeah, use those a little bit later. I think I would have been better off.
Now, Dark Matter Velo coming up, Casey. This is a chance for redemption in the points category. You're not far back from Carl Axel Sander. I mean, how do you play this one now?
This one's going to be chaos because 10 laps, we're going to get into lap riders. We've got bots. There's going to be blocked lanes. No power-ups. So it's going to feel smooth for the leader for about 4 laps, and then it's going to be just utter chaos.
That sums up CVRcade Racing to a T right there, so we'll see. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Quinton. 30 seconds to go. We've got more racing coming up. So what you just saw was pretty much a pure simulation of as close you can get to real-life bike racing. Now, we're going towards the esports element, because if you played Mario Kart, this is pretty much the equivalent of that. Dark Matter Velo, you have a velodrome that you slide out on, their disabled lane, and it comes down to this initial sprint. We look towards the front of the racing. Who will be the dominant racer? Quinton and Casey. Both of them need points. Carl Axel Sanders up there as well. Pre-race favorites coming into this. Frank Garcia and Timothy Tamont. Ben Shuilon goes down. Jeff Rooney goes down. But Frank Garcia comes through the corner and a very vital first position. But he's being chased down by 2 Cycling Hub members. Frank Garcia now. He has got this course nailed down. He understands the risks that needs to be taken as Christian Weidman crashes down. Casey Shum is down in 8th. Carl is down in 7th. And with this being the high scoring multiplier of the day, 2.5, this can make all the difference. Quinton in a good position. Carl Axel Sander moves on through to the left. Casey in the green in the middle. It comes down to how much practice have you done on Dark Matter Velo, because every lap you can gain seconds back. The initial sprint out of the gate makes up the majority of the time in this race, but you have to race flawlessly. You need to understand once you get into the further laps that suddenly riders are overlapping, riders are in different lanes, and we watch Casey try to make it back up, but it's Frank Garcia in that avatar. We've seen this racing so much, and Dark Matter Velo is all about the initial sprint, but then it's keeping up with it as Carl Axel Sander down in 8th after a dominant performance in Temple Run has just stacked it in 8th. So he's moving down to 3rd overall coming into Saturn if it was to finish right now. Quinton Molinez, I think he's just racing here for a conservative result. I think he just doesn't want to fall further down. Frank is making his entrance back into the rankings, but as Frank has mentioned himself, he's not racing for the points here. He is racing for the joy and entertainment that is CVRcade racing as he slows down to 30 k's an hour. Significant breaks. You see Casey down in 5th, Quinton in 2nd. Timothy Tamont is on the wheel off his teammate. I think he's just going to try and help his teammates. So Frank choosing a really far outside lane there. This is, now you see Frank on the left in the red, Quinton on the right. This is an opportunity to overhaul Frank, pass him on the inside. If he opts to do so, we'll see if he sprints all out. Frank choosing a very far outside lane, opting to be out of the traffic. But this gives Quinton the opportunity to come back, and that's what Dark Matter Velo is about. Timothy Tamont stacks it behind him. Kayla Laguna is now catching up, but we stick with Quinton for the time being because this is 10s on the front. Oh, Quinton is coming into a clock lane. There's a rider ahead of him. This could make up all the difference, but no, he is lucky the rider accelerates again. Frank on the left, Quinton on the right. Frank gets back in, and it's 1.4 kilometers. That is nail-biting. Quinton coming on through, passing a rider. Kayla sticking with it, down in third. Casey is moving up, and the rankings out at the top. Quinton, Casey, Frank, Carl. It is so close. Casey stacks it. Casey was pushing it, and now he stacks it further down in fifth. He's behind Timothy, and this opens the door for Joyce and Ben to come on through. Quinton in second place. He's gained a gap, but it wasn't just enough just yet to come on through. Slowing down. 33.9 to 34, and it's going to be a close finish between Frank and Quinton here as you see him stand up and accelerate. Frank opting for the outside lane here in the red, rather wanting to stay out of traffic, and meanwhile Quinton is risking it on the inside lane, and you can see Quinton in the blue on the right, Frank on the red, and now they're so close to each other. They're literally neck and neck with 2 laps remaining. No power-ups are available. It's pure skill and understanding of the track. As the 2 races, Frank just saving that one. He got very close to the edge. And now Quinton versus Frank. They've got to choose the right lane. And Quinton goes right into Kim Fairchild. And then it goes into Kayla. Oh, this opens the door further down. Frank can be happy with that one. But Kayla slams into the back of Quinton as well. And that is why you stay out of traffic. All the gains made are negated in 1 second, and with 1 lap to go, Frank staying out of traffic, staying out of trouble, but it can all change. Even with 1 lap to go, it is never over on Dark Mattervello. Kayla crashes further down. We got another rider crashing on the left. 200 meters to go, and Frank Garcia is right back in the racing. Second place on the scoreboard. Casey third, Carl fourth, and after this we've got Saturn Circuit Complete coming up. I can't tell it. It's been great so far watching it. Frank Garcia will be very happy with that one. Dark Matter Velo is a prestigious race to take to the book. You can see Frank celebrating. He got pushed to the limit there by Quinton Molinez as you get the celebration on the screen. Quinton, 1 mistake away from catching that first place. Kayla will take fourth behind Timothy Tamont. So Timothy coming on, taking vital points away. Casey Shum, not one of the best experiences here in Dark Matter Velo, but he does salvage some of it coming in fifth. Ben Shuilong has nightmares with this course, and he'll add to the list and the book and the pages as Joyce in seventh. And speaking of nightmares, Carl Axel Sander down in eighth. From hero to zero in a 1 race. Can the Swedish Viking make it up? But let's see Frank's celebration once more as we head to outer space. Saturn Circuit Complete coming up next with more racing live here on Mixer. Make sure to click that follow button down below if you are entertained. This was Dark Matter Velo that you just watched, and Quinton, Frank. I say it time and time again, that initial jump, that initial corner, if you can win that sprint, you're in the driving seat. You're the one applying the pressure, and Frank did just that and forced a mistake out of Quinton, out of the rest, and a fairly flawless race. Frank, how much does it mean to you winning the Dark Matter Velo race of the evening?
Oh, I love that course. So a lot of fun. I had to take some chances in open lanes, open the door for Quinton, but also opened the door for him to make a mistake. And so that's a real chess match, that course. Not only is it skillful, but then you got to look ahead and see what jerseys you see in what lanes and which lane to take, and makes a difference.
Speaking of chess match, we've got Saturn coming up next, and first through fourth is separated by 9 points, I believe, Frank. How do you think this one will pan out next?
Well, congrats to Joyce for catching me sleeping in the last race, and she cost me 4 points. That could come back to haunt me. So you always gotta pay attention. So yeah, it's anybody's game. Out of the top 4, we've all been competing today, so I suspect it'll be very, very interesting. The neat thing about Dark Matter Velo is you kind of get a recovery. Carl went pretty hard in the second race. For his third race, probably got some recovery. So this one will be brutal in all likelihood.
Well, that will make for some excellent entertainment for the rest of us, so I hope that's going to be the case. Thank you, Frank. Quinton, is walking into the last race, the favorite on the front. Quinten, are you poised? Are you set to take 2 Zone Ks back-to-back this week? Or how do you think this one will pan out?
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make any statements. I'm just, I'm going to enjoy this last race and just hope for the best. It's just going to be a matter of crossing the line first, and then you win.
I saw you had Timothy out there in the last race. Was that something you guys had planned to come out and help take some points away from the others?
No, I think he must have messaged me on Facebook like when I was racing, because I didn't know he was going to jump in.
Well, pseudo team tactics on the fly seemed to have worked out as he took some valuable points away from the rest. Well, Quinten, good luck here in the next race. Let's get a final word from Casey Shum with 50 seconds to go. Casey, Dark Matter Velo, one to scratch away. What about Saturn? Will this be the day? Will this be the race? Oh, I think Casey might just
hey, sorry.
No worries.
I was talking in team car. Yeah, this one we'll see how it goes. I was just contemplating how to use the power-ups and going through that in my head. So this is going to be a battle. No wind, straight up drafting and racing. We know this track really well, so it's going to be a battle.
Thank you, Casey. I love Casey. So deep in his own thoughts, it takes about 5-6 seconds to realize. That's what the strategic side of CVRcade racing really shines through. It's not just waking up, getting on the platform and racing, especially when you're racing for money like this. It comes down to the amount of researching, the theory crafting, that the team members, the talk and the discussions on how to really be the best one, because there's never one absolute best way of racing. There's so many different strategies that do unfold, and the power-ups you get is 2 inertias and 2 weight lifters. We've yet to see inertia in the racing today, but inertia is one of the most powerful power-ups in the game. It locks your speed at whatever speed you're doing for 10 seconds. But from the gun here, on the front, Frank Garcia, Ben Shuilong, they've got a bit of a breakaway with Joyce DeSmit. All the way down, depending on how this race turns out, it is an up and down affair. Anyone can really make moves up, and with the seeding, like every position matters, because you may look at the rankings and go, well, it doesn't really matter for me, but coming into the tournament at the end of all the racing, every position up, in theory, should be an easier opponent that you're gonna face, as Ben Shuilong hasn't had the best of races, but he can make up for it here. Further back, Casey Shum makes his way back up. He did say this is straight up racing. There's no wind, so drafting is self-explanatory. Even in the corners, you do end up getting a bit more drafting as Casey passes on through. This is Zone K, by the way. We've got Zone L coming up in 14 minutes. So we're going to see new faces. We're going to see more racing. And if you haven't just had enough yet of CVRcade World Cup racing, well, don't worry. There's more racing coming up just after this. And we've got more racing tonight as well with Zone T. Luis Soberanis, Moti Pikelny, Aaron Starling, Jenna Garcia, and plenty others will be making their appearance tonight in the racing as we watch that. But it seems to be another unfolding of the Temple Run start. Everybody a bit antsy, a bit jumpy, understanding the risks that are at hand. We're coming up to a pressure point here. There's left-hand turn. Few riders, if you come in too hot, ooh, Rick, Joyce, all a bit safe here, but here comes the spiral. Quinten Molyneux wanting to get out in front of the traffic because it is so close in the front. Everybody a bit antsy. Quinten slides out, but thanks to the speed differential, he does not crash. Vibeke Bertram, she's getting ready for the next zone. She's warming up. She crashes further down. First time on the spiral. We'll look from above. Quinten standing up, accelerating, because it's Casey Shum who is laying down the power here. And you can see the 2 riders. Casey in front, Quinten on the wheel. And now the 2 riders will go head to head. They're separated by 1 point on the scoreboard. Now as Frank catches up, Frank is trying to cause a mistake, and he almost gets it. Quinten, this is the 2nd or 3rd time he gets lucky, as then Frank, pays back the favor. So sometimes you crash, sometimes you don't. It comes down to the speed differential. If the speed differential is within an acceptable margin, aka slow, like in real life, if you touch elbows, touch wheels, you can save it. You've got the balance. But if you come and hit each other real quickly, you can't save it. And that's the same dynamic that CVRcade emulates. The quicker you slam into another rider, the more the likelihood is of you crashing. Joyce here in 5th place. On the scoreboard, she's down in 8th. She's got the possibility of moving up until 5th place. So she's going to want this one, but it's 4 laps of Saturn. You get 2 inertias, 2 weightlifted, and we're yet to see a single person use their power-ups. This is going to be an explosive finish. As Christian Weidman for a second just blocks Frank on the inside. Rix comes on the right side. It's great racing. Ben Shuilong, though, not having the greatest of evenings here. So we'll see if he can make amends for it. Last race here in Zone K, but he's going the wrong way. Carl Axel Sander forced to use an inertia. How much did Temple Run take out of him? How tired is he? Because that's 1 inertia done. Equalized heart rate is up at this moment, and he is finding himself in 3rd. But a good position here could move him up into 1st place. But he's got Frank, he's got Casey, he's got Quinton to worry with. And we'll see if the Swedish Viking can make it up. Frank, calm and composed, looking on the inside. Thomas Tippling and Jeff further down, both using their inertias to try and get back up. I think they will return back to the group, but Rick Woods has attacked. Watch for Frank here to try and bridge the move. Rick on the inside, Frank standing up, accelerating. Here comes the power. 640, 700 equalized watts. This is the move. We look back. Quinton Molinese is trying to bridge. Casey Shum is on the wheel as well. They cannot let Frank go, but Quinton is leading by 0.5 of a point ahead of Frank Garcia. Now, preferred zones are going to make a big difference here come the end, but we'll wait for the bonus point. Ben Shuilong made it back up. He crashed. Frank and Rick have hooked up on the front. Casey is now coming back, and so is Joyce. Coming into the spiral, every time, this is like a leg sapper. Every time you come into the spiral, your legs give out. So Casey accelerating, using his weightlifter power up here as he wants to go through. And he wants to maybe try and catch one of the riders off guard and see if he can force a mistake. But that is kind of... that's almost like a poker tell. Using your power up at this point in the racing as one of the first riders, that's when you're kind of telling the others, I don't have the best cards in my hand. I need that extra bit of punch to get over the top. And that is halfway through the racing. Chicane is coming up. Very congested. Rick comes through. Frank comes through. Quinton comes through. All safe and sound. Frank uses... I think Frank is loading up here. I think Frank may be loading up for an inertia. This is an attack. Watch out now. Everybody else has to react to this. Weight lifted. 900 equalized. 54.7 kilometers an hour. We watch back. This is a move they have to react to. Quinton now. He's doing the same thing. 900 equalized watts, 49 k's an hour. He is going to have to also pop an inertia. So does Joyce, but she does it at a much higher speed. So Joyce DeSmit here, if she can get through, she threads the needle. Very, very good gameplay and mechanic there from Joyce DeSmit. Frank with a 2nd consecutive inertias. So both inertias have gone. And this is what I mean with powerful power-ups. Just like that, the gap has increased. It is out to 7 seconds now. 8 seconds. But Quinton also uses his 2nd inertia. So counterplays all around. And the scoreboard, it is so close at the top. Joyce uses her 2nd inertia. I don't think Casey has used either of his yet. And if that's the case, he is in a strong position here. So down in 6th place, Casey Shum. He looks a bit fatigued. The cadence has come down. Will he be able to make up for it now? Because he's just gone from 2nd on the scoreboard down to 4th place. There's the first inertia from Casey. So can it be used to the same extent? He's 13 seconds down on Frank. He is 5 seconds down on Quinton. I think we may just see back-to-back inertias here from Casey as he increases the power again. And this is where you come in and you have a strategy planned out. You know exactly where you want to use the power-ups and how you want to use the power-ups. But then somebody else goes, no, you do not. And I'm going to use my powers my way, which forces you to react to it. And that's why CVRcade World Cup racing is epic and awesome, because Casey zoned out. He had his strategies, but it wasn't meant to be. And Quinten on the left, Casey on the right. Frank's in the driving position, 2.5 points ahead of Quinten, and Quinten needs to make up for it. Weightlifter gets used as we get on to the climb. 900 equalized watts. When they cross the start-finish banner, it is the last lap of racing here on Saturn Circuit Complete. We've got one more zone coming up after this, so don't go anywhere. But Carl Axel Sander is passing Casey Shum out on course. He is now down into 5th. Frank has used both his power-ups, he's used both inertias, and for this last lap, he's going to have to race it on pure legs, pure determination. And when we bring down the scoreboard, you'll see Frank 1.5 points ahead of Quinten. Carl Axel Sander will be damning his previous result on Dark Matter Velo, but we look down. Who can catch up to Frank? It is only Quinten Molyneux at this point, as Carl Axel Sander's further 3 seconds back. But Quinten suffering, he's getting stuck in. This is his win, getting out of the way. He also understands that with preferred zone, I don't believe this is Quinten's preferred zone, he needs to win by a significant margin over the rest. As we watch Quinten, Casey Shum uses his second inertia. Oh, he still capped it, and now he's making his way back up, because this is Casey's preferred zone, which means he will get a bonus of 16 points here as he catches up to Quinten, and they will now swap. Quinten on the right allows Casey to come on through, and Rick Woods, Christian Weidman, both with their inertias. This is so back and forth. Casey and Quinten, I think Quinten needs to beat Casey in order to take bonus, but I don't even know. Math is difficult. But Casey is back in on the front. Frank Garcia will take everything away. Preliminary result on the day here. Frank Garcia wants the Omnium. Take away all the bonus points. Take away the streaming, the preferred zones. If it was to end right here, right now, Frank Garcia wants the victory. 5 seconds down to Quinten and Casey. The two riders now working together. They're taking turns on the front. Quinten, with 1 kilometer to go, gets the last swig of the bottle. You can see the Team Cycling Hub rider and the Team Experimentalist, Carl Axel Sander, 1200 equalized watts with inertia, attacks on through here. And he wants to say, you know what, remember me? I am still here. As Carl Axel Sander, 3 seconds up to Frank now. He is back in, but 199. And I think the math works in such a way that he potentially could also take the win. Oh, Quinten goes down. Quinten goes down in the corner, and just like that, it gets flipped on his head. I think he changed lanes. I think he changed lanes in the corner, and he goes down. This opens the possibility for Frank, for Carl, for Casey, but 400 meters to go for Frank. He is fighting through it. He's only got the chicane left. Frank Garcia, head down, bopping everywhere, no energy left. It's not often you see Frank Garcia at 197 equalized heart rate. He came out, he got pushed to his limit, and 1 chicane left. Carl Axel Sander is 4 seconds in his rear, but I don't think he's going to have the sprint. It's going to be close. Frank knows that Carl is a tiny bit more fresh, but 100 meters to go. Frank on the front, and I do believe he will take the Omnium as well. Preliminary, there you go. Frank Garcia, Saturn with a celebration. Carl Axel Sander in second place, and then Casey Shum gets passed by Rick. And that allows Quinten third place, but pending results afterwards. But oh my goodness, I don't think words can describe what these riders just went through. Quinten shows you all you gotta see. Ben versus Joyce. Joyce slams into the back of Ben. And once more, Joyce almost stealing points on the line, but she hit right into the back of Ben, slowing down her momentum. And that was just a shame as they were sprinting for the line. Caught your breath already? Well, we got a highlight of Frank finishing, because in 3 minutes time, Zone L will start. We got more racing coming up. We've got Homer, Timothy, Renee. Well, we got another rider as well in the start line. I'd love to see new racers coming in, but what an effort from Frank Garcia to stay away. He really put down the law when he used both his power-ups and forced the rest of their hands. I think we'll have to confirm the scoreboard. I'll leave that up to the executive commissioners. But I think in the end, with points, I do think Casey may still take it because of bonus points, but I will leave that to the executive judges. Frank, you decided to use both inertias. Was there ever a point where you thought, what have I done to myself in that last race?
Oh yeah, when they saw I had power-ups and I didn't, I was like, I just got to dig deep and say a small prayer and hope. And I think me and Casey had worked a little bit together earlier in the day, and I think he put just enough of a slowing on the front to hold Quentin back. And then Quentin had to push it on the corner and he crashed. And that opened up for me. But then Carl had the power-ups, and I needed that 4 points from Joyce again. Anyway, ouch. It was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, as a game creator, how proud are you about that gameplay? Because the Temple Run and Saturn, like, some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, the gameplay is just getting astounding with the teams, and you know, sometimes there's overt blocking. I thought Casey did it really well, more like you do outside, where you just kind of go to the front and you slow down a little bit, not a lot. But that little bit was absolutely huge to me. It gave me another second or two, and it gave me the belief that I could get to the end without Quentin catching me.
10 seconds to go. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Zone L is about to get underway as more racing live to you right here on Mixer CVR World Cup, the channel. Click that like button, click that follow button down below as the racing continues for more on the front. We've got Timothy Tamant in the action. He raced earlier. He's the king of the bottom left-hand corner, and he has returned. As he is obviously very upset about his placement. We will fix that for him in a second. We've got Humfuk UK coming in. It's good to see new racers coming in. I love when new racers come in because they give me such a trouble saying their name, pronouncing it. Moti, for the longest time I said that, but it's actually Moti. So Humph UK, it's good to see you in the racing. Homer Thompson is in, and we've also got Peter Kastrup, who looks to be not in this first race as we went to the back. He's getting set up. Beth York is in the racing as well, as she will be on the stream in just a second. Renee Valides also making it in here, so it's good to see. Zone L, for those that don't know, is the preceding zone after Zone K. So to allow everybody a chance for the racing, we have several zones across the day because we have so many different riders from different sides of the world. And so if you can't make a specific race because you've got work, you've got school, you've got something specific you've got to do, well, you can choose a time zone that suits you. Here in Zone L, there are a few of the same riders earlier, but we're going to have to see what legs they have left. Humph UK taking it up on the front. Timothy Tamant is in there now as well, as he was up there in Dark Matter Velo. It's not his preferred zone, but he is a strong racer as he's satisfied with his placement now on screen. We've got Paula further back. We got Homer Thompson, Thomas Tibbling, Vanessa Murahan as Zone L progresses now. Vibeke Bertram, a Velocity Vixen rider as well, is in here. I mean, this is going to be tense to watch the finish off because some of these riders have barely recovered from the previous race as Timothy Tamant just closes down Angry Birds on his phone. Ben Shuilong has raced 4 races in the last zone. We saw him starting to feel it on Saturn, and now he has to go once more with more racing in here. He's on the back. He's accelerating through. Beth York getting back on as well now as she slides on through. Halfway through the racing, and you've seen the racing now. You've seen the racing that's at hand. We have first race, Kalis Mountain Track. Then we've got Temple Run, Dark Matter Velo, and Saturn Circuit complete. The last zone was some of the best racing we've ever seen on CVRcade World Cup, and I find myself saying that every race, every zone, because it just gets better. Like the progression of once it clicks, once you understand the different dynamics. As Humph UK is just off the back here, and he is fighting to get back in. 800 equalized watts. He's coming in as a Cade cadet. It's very important to understand, Humph, if you're watching this back. Your first few races on CVRcade, you are a Cade cadet, meaning that when you come on, the game has got to figure out what can you do. You got to be equalized to be a part of the racing, and so it pushes you to the limit. And as you level up and you progress through, you go from a Cade cadet to a Cade competitor, Cade master, Cade pro. And so the first few races, you got to come in here and stress test the system so it gets confident in your ability. And that's what we see Humph UK at 236 equalized heart rate. That indeed is above the scale, but that's because first race in here. Good to see more racers taking on to the platform. 1.4 kilometers remaining here. Ben Shuey along in the yellow jersey. He is ready to go. Casey Shum did take the win previously in this race as he really worked for it. He wanted it. He was very, very proud of that victory. And we'll see if it'll be the same here on the front. Vibeke Bertram being a bit jumpy. Timothy Tamont in the Cycling Hub colours. Quinton Molyneux with good results in the previous race, but not enough. Thomas Tibbling further down uses comeback kit. Vibeke Bertram is pushing down the law here. And the Dane from Velocity Vixen, 1 lap remaining once they cross that finish banner. We will see who will it be here. Timothy getting ready. On Aquavelo on Tuesday, he was winding it up like it was a track sprint, like he had a 62 tooth on there. We'll see if that's going to be the same today as Thomas Tippling in the yellow, further back, comeback kid. He's going to be flying on through, but as Vanessa lets go of the group, that power-up will run out. Timothy there. Ben before has won races on no skill event, and he'll sit at the back here, try and time it. Vibeke there as well as Humph UK is fighting away with 240 equalized heart rate. Yellow jersey of Ben Shualong is going. Beth's up there. Christian René Valadez. Will it be René Valadez? A big success here in Kayla's mountain track. 300 meters to go. Beth accelerate. Ben looks over. Timothy Tamont comes on through. Beth versus Timothy. Timothy Tamont is giving it everything. Look at the determination from the Team Cycling Hub rider. That is absolutely amazing celebration. Relatively premature. That could have gone very wrong on Kayla's mountain track. But the Motumbo finger whack. Timothy Tamont. How about that, says the Team Cycling Hub rider. A good sprint from Beth as well. Beth really pushed the power early on. I know she is relatively under the weather, so she's in here racing, and you can see pushing through. It's Beth York accelerating early on, pushing the envelope. Renee is there as well. And now everybody moving on to the next race, which is Temple Run. But Beth, now you see that 800. Timothy Tamont with 1,300 equalized watts. And as the gradient goes down, his cadence goes up. And look how early he's celebrating. Timothy Tamont wanting that one so badly. Timothy, congratulations on winning the first race. That celebration, I'm putting that down as one of the best we've ever seen. It looked like you wanted that one, so talk me through that race.
Just like it was a classic no skill event. Just got to sit in for the last 300 meters and then just send it. I saw Beth go a bit early, so then I knew like, okay, I jump first for the group, then I jump again when I pass Beth, and perfect. I did celebrate early, but I just looked at the speeds and there was no way they were catching me.
I just love that because the way we've seen no skill event pan out, they are so dangerous. But Timothy, having the chance to watch the last race, we saw you race Dark Matter Velo. You're coming into Temple Run. We've seen you before extend too much energy early on. Is that a concern for you?
Yeah, no, not really. We're just gonna see how far we get here. You know, long races are not my forte, but we're just gonna go. I hope the race turns out a bit like last Omnium, so that will play in my hands. But we'll see. I can rest on the third race, so then I just gotta keep something for the last race, but we'll be good.
Well, congratulations, Timothy, and congratulations on the celebration. That was top-notch. Peter Klastrup is in here and back on the racing. I gotta ask, Peter, what classical music are you listening to today?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. I mean, I had a bit of a struggle with getting in. The first race, I missed it. They didn't let me in. But That's okay. I'm in the next one, so no music, everything quiet, concentrated. Nothing can go wrong.
Oh, famous last words, Peter.
I know.
You recently changed your power source, I believe. You recently went out and bought a Tax Neo. What's that experience been like to come back in and having reset your curve?
Oh, it's really hard. Last Tuesday, wasn't equalized yet, and you could feel the system holding you back, holding you back. And physical equalization was very aggressive. So on the first lap of Summit Islands, I was third. Never had that before, but the second I was 11th, I think. So it kicks in really fast. But I think I should be okay today. I looked at the power curve and it seems to have settled into equalize now, but we'll know for sure after the start of the race.
We will see. Thank you, Peter. I'm a bit disappointed we don't have Beethoven on today or back, but perhaps that will be the downfall. We'll see. I'm getting some information here from Moti P. Kelney, and if you are a team recruiter, you've got to be quick because what Moti can do, it is beyond anything I've ever seen before. He's giving me some data on Humph UK, who's racing in here today, which you saw in the previous race. Humph UK has been cycling since 2012, does between 5,000 to 8,000 miles a year, and races on an elite Drivo. I'm not even sure how you're figuring this out, Moti, but that is some information on our new racer who took to the start line in the previous no skill event. So thank you very much to Moti P. Kelney. And now Ben Shuilong. He's got teammates in here. He's got Homer Thompson and Peter Kastrup, I do believe. But we're looking at some fresh racers. Beth York, in the last race, she came to the front. She pushed the pressure down, but it was going to be Timothy Tamont who really cut through the top. And like sometimes when you're racing, if you just wanted that bit more, it is quite powerful. It's quite very fun to watch. As now Frank Garcia from the back here in his second zone of racing. Question will be how much is left in the tank for him as Racer's Edge and wind at his back gets used to get back up to the front. But Vibeke Bertram, Peter Kastrup, Christian Weidman, Beth York, and Timothy Tamont are up here. Vibeke Bertram, watch the name because I think she is just on the cusp of a breakthrough performance. Vanessa Murahan had it on Summit Islands. She had it on Fantastic Alien Sea. And I think Vibeke Bertram is in the same category. I think she's just been getting better and better and better. And it's something with the talent nurture at Velocity Vixen where they understand to take their racers to the next level once they get recruited. They nurture them, they teach them the strategies and all the tricks and secrets. As Vibeke just breaks a tiny bit there on Peter Kastrup. We're on Timothy, and in this one we've got Peter Kastrup on the right, Timothy on the left. The fight of the Benelux region. Now, prior to the broadcasting today, I was made aware that pigeon racing is a very big thing in the Flandrian region. We'll see which of the two pigeons will fly home first here. Timothy Tamont and Peter Kastrup. Timothy's reaction was very much the same one I had when I first heard about it. Beth York at the back. 6 riders have made it to the front. But here is where it gets interesting because in the previous race, in the previous zone in Temple Run, the bots came back. The peloton came back. And so all the efforts, all the gaps being closed, you heard Quentin Molyneux say it himself, closing every single gap. It was kind of putting the own nails in your own coffin because you didn't need to. Everybody else was just relying on the pace, and with the peloton racing the way they were, we're seeing riders now further back. We're seeing Kale Laguna, you're seeing Ben Shuilong. They're happy to sit in. As they have the experience of the previous race, they are sticking with the second group on the road, and they're just going to stay at 344 equalized heart rate. They're not watts. They're not going to move, and unless the riders in the front get organized, it will not be any difference as we go back. Homer Thompson here, 188. He is pushing the pressure on the front now. As Timothy, Christian, Vibeke are all now forced to react to it as the 6 riders make up the front group here. 3 laps of Temple Run. You get 1 wind at your back, 1 Racer's Edge, and 1 Quantum Shift. And now 3 riders are going away. Peter Kastrup has got Homer up in the front group. Will he chase down his own teammate? He's at 199 equalized heart rate. You can see him quite suffering on the left, so definitely a bit in the hurt zone here, pushing down the power, trying to get across. As Christian uses wind at his back, Vibeke moves to the right. Do they trust Peter to get them back to the front group? Looking at preferred zones, you've got Homer Thompson with preferred zone, Vibeke Bertram, Peter Kastrup, Christian Weidman has also got this as their preferred zone. In the previous race, René Valades was in there, and he also has this as his preferred zone. But Timothy standing up. He's being distanced by Homer and Beth. Homer and Beth are actually gaining a bit of a gap here, and this is what Homer does so well. Homer just, oh, we got Peter as well, 700 equalized watts further down. He is fighting to get back on turn, but this is what Homer does well. But there'll be some words in the team camp after this, because they've got one yellow jersey on the front putting down the power, and you've got one other yellow jersey losing it out the back. So is it worth it? Is it the right strategy? But what I was about to say is that this is what Homer does best. Homer rides a consistent pace, and he just sits there, and he's a tempo machine. He's a diesel engine. Once you get up to speed, it just goes so efficiently. It doesn't go up much, it doesn't go down much, just chugs along. As you can see, Homer Thompson of CCC putting down the pressure, Beth in second, Peter in third, and then Timothy Tamont further down. I'm really liking the approach of Ben Shuilong here. He is sticking with the butts, not moving up or down, as you can now see. I'm getting more information on Humph UK by Moti P. Kelly, but I'm not going to share the rest. We look forward to seeing Humph UK join the rest of the racing here on CVRcade World Cup. But Ben, having the experience from the previous race, it's just staying with the butts. He's got two teammates in the front as well, doesn't have to worry about it, and he knows that Saturn takes so much out of your legs. Dark Matter Velo is an important race, so they're just staying with the butts. Christian is down here, Paula as well. It's good to see Paula, Velocity Vixen. She is a rider in Beth York's Good Morning races or rides on Monday and Friday. So if you're not into racing and if you're watching the platform and you've always been like just putting your toes in the water and you feel like you're not ready to just jump in, Beth's rides on Mondays and Fridays, as I just saw that was being recorded as a highlight. But Mondays and Fridays, those are the days that you can have onboarding rides with Beth York to kind of get used to what it's like riding and racing on the platform. Timothy Tamont, third place, Team Cycling Hub. There's a lot of pressure racing this second zone because you have to live up to what happened in the previous zone. If you had a team member in there, they perform well, the expectation is on you to perform well as well, as Timothy stands up and applies a bit of pressure on the pedals. But Vibeke Bertram is riding away, 2 seconds up the road now, and if she gets a gap, she is never looking back. I mean, she is just gonna lay down and just put down any of the water she's got in her and ride a time trial, and we're seeing that now as Beth with her teammate up the road. It's not that collective. Like, we look at the different riders and it's ones and ones and ones. They're not like the previous zone where they were all bunched up. So Vibeke on the front, Timothy second, Beth third, as Timothy I just said he crashed, but it's a low skill event, which means you cannot crash. And then further down, Peter and Homer are syncing up. They're now lining up on the road, and with the wind, they're trying to form their own echelon. Take shelter in the wind and make their way back up to the front group. But you can see Peter and Homer slightly distanced by the front three. 1 lap down, 2 laps remaining here in Zone L of the CVRcade World Cup on a late weekday, also known as a Thursday. The scoreboard at the top, it's close between Timothy, Vibeke and Beth, with Homer and Peter further down. Christian Weidman, I mean, this group behind the bots are only 8 seconds down. We go back here, and you got Benjamin, you've got Musk, you've got all the Orvilles, etc., the Clarence, and they're just down here. They could very well catch back up at any moment. So, unless Vibeke, Timothy, and Beth can work together, I think this group may very well come back. It's fascinating to watch, though, because how do you race this? How do you strategize it? Because if you're Ben, you're Christian, you're Paula, do you ever panic? Do you ever think, well, it did happen in the last race, but it may not happen in this one, as they're now sitting in and just enjoying the tow around here on Temple Run. You can see the sky up above. It looks to be further up into the north. This could be perhaps Norway or somewhere where you can see the nice night sky. But Ben Shuilong remains seated in his very comfortable position. But then you look at the opposite on the front. Well, it looks pretty similar here as well, as Beth is just looking on, staying on the wheel of Timothy Tamont. And it's going to be difficult now as Peter has left Homer. He's bridged back to the front group. But at 197, he is feeling the pressure here now. As you can see, the yellow CCC, the homemade kit on the left, matches the one in the game. The dedication from the CCC squad to get the matching colors, to get the matching bonus points. But Peter, he is... you can see he's seeming to struggle a bit more. He's showing the visible hurt a bit more than usual. His equalized heart rate is further up and he's having to work for the result being put out. Homer uses wind at his back, but Vibeke has not left the front. And I think this comes back to an interesting point that Timothy did mention on Tuesday, because they were being, Team Cycling was being ridiculed a tiny bit by Casey, by Jeff, because it was Niels Heldens, the Tempest, Timothy Tamont, the Mustache Man, who found himself in a breakaway with Jeff and Casey. And because neither of them are used to being in breakaways, they didn't know the etiquette. They didn't know the ins and outs of how to take turns, how to, behave in a front group. And that caused the group's morale to fall down and falter, which made other riders attack. But what we're seeing now here with Peter on the right, Timothy on the left, on the second ascent of Temple Run Hill, is that Vibeke Bertram has not left the front. She has got diamonds in her legs. She's feeling it. She wants to win this one. But is she doing too much? This is the question that keeps popping up. It keeps returning to it here, as you've got to figure it out. Like, how do you really realize your potential in a race? When you've got diamonds, you've got to try and really race cleverly. As you can see Beth on the right here of Peter Kastrup on the left. As now Timothy lets up. Vibeke gets a bit of a gap here. Will Timothy take a turn? He moves to the right. He goes, nope, I'm not doing it. Vibeke sees an opportunity. She's using Razor's Edge. And now, Peter and Timothy, the moment you two have been waiting for. You have to react to this. Combined, you have to join the forces, because Beth is just going to sit in the back. Vibeke is her teammate, and she's riding up the road. Peter, 197, not for the lack of trying, is pushing down some power here on the hill. But this is what happens. The reason you see the sway from Peter more than usual is because he's changed to attacks Neo compared to his Wahoo kicker. Those are the trainers, the high-end trainers at the back of their bike, and they feel different. They're very different products. The Tax Neo allows you to sway more, and you're seeing that from Peter. And not only has his power curve been reset, you've got to get used to it. It's like changing a bike. Like, it's really awesome to change your bike, but what's happened to Vibeke? Oh, Vibeke for a second, I think she just had to rest. As the shower came down, she was like, yes, and back to work. So 300 equalized watts, 192 equalized heart rate. I don't think they ever see her again. I think the way she's been racing, she is having a breakout performance here. Now, you can call me biased, but I'm also Danish, and I am just loving seeing another Dane performing well at this moment. So Vibeke Bertram, with bias in mind, is looking really good at this moment. But Homer Thompson makes his way back. This could be a blessing in disguise for Timothy Tamont and Peter Kastrup, as they need some order, they need some teamwork here, they need some some organized chasing, as Timothy's making the sign of working together. But how long will that last? Because when you're not used to being in a breakaway, and I can attest to this myself, as you see Timothy just showing the sign here once more. This is the universal sign of, let's just come on through, pull a turn, then go to the back. Or it's the sign of ordering another milkshake, but that's a way old joke, as we've seen before, as Timothy just not happy with that one. But this is the thing, and I very rarely found myself in breakaways when you think, oh, let's take a turn, but then you take a turn and you realize it hurts too much. So the saving grace for the front group, could very well be the butts, because they're only 3 seconds down, 4 seconds down, and that early attack has shaked things up. Peter Castro has gone from the front of the race and out the back down in 12th place now. So you see Ben Shuey along. We've got the Mighty V's, the Mighty Ducks down here in V formation, ready to get back up as being led by Goldberg. They're going to get back in. They're going to get back up here to the front. And now it's Vibeke versus the Butts. Beth is going to try and play enforcer role here. I think she's going to try and slow down the Butts the best she can do to allow her teammate to sustain her gap, because the gap is 25 seconds and she is burning energy. So we look from above, the orange Velocity Vixen shirt. What will Beth do in this situation? One rider goes through, two rider goes through as Homer on the left. This is now all back together in the chasing group, bar one. Vibeke Bertram, clearly the strongest racer, going off the front and being left behind now as we watch how will it unfold as it's Velocity Vixen versus CCC with Christian Whiteman here. I mean, kind of flown under the radar. It is only one race here. I mean, Temple Run is 1 out of 4 races. We've had one race already done. It is not the end all be all. As Vibeke is looking very strong at this moment, she's going to have to replicate it. And how does she fare on Dark Matter Velo? It's a high skill course with loads of technical turns and understandings of gameplay mechanics. And then we finish on Saturn, which you saw Ben, you saw Joyce, you saw Frank, Casey, Quinton. They had absolutely nothing left. Beth is on the voice communication. She's talking to Vibeke and they're sharing how are they feeling. What are the strategies as Timothy comes to the front. I think they're quite happy perhaps to let Vibeke go at this point because the effort required. Let's go and I think we got Timothy on the broadcast. Timothy, what's happening there in the peloton? What's happening from your point of view?
Oh, we're just on a recovery ride here. Nothing to say.
Wow.
Now, the way she attacked, the moment she attacked, I had to sit up a little bit. I couldn't follow that. And then when Homer came back, I was like, okay, he's coming in with a lot of speed. I won't block him. I'm just going to go with him. I took over and then I left them all behind. So I was like, yeah, okay, let's just wait for the bots. And yeah, here we are.
Well, I'll let you not get dropped by the bots, Timothy. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and how you're seeing the race, because how we see the race on our side and how they envision the race in the pack is very different things. But Paula is coming back into the racing. This is an amazing story. It's awesome to see Paula. I saw her on the forum saying, oh, I'm slowly getting addicted to the CVRcade thing. It's amazing. It makes me feel so good. And that makes me feel good because watching you race and pull on through and you've stuck with the bots, and now thanks to physical equalization, the secret sauce, the mustard on top, this is what makes the racing so compelling. The fact that anybody can win as long as you put in the hours. And now Paula, Velocity Vixen, she may not rock the shirt, but by heart she bleeds purple and orange. As she now accelerates, you see a bit of acceleration, but there's no catching Vibeke. You saw Timothy say the way she attacked, there's just no way getting back up. She's 20 seconds off the front with the correct power-ups. Does she blow up? Am I gonna have to bite my own tongue? Because when you've gone for this long, you tend to slowly run out of steam. And she's used her power-up. Some riders further back, if they get organized, I might have to bite my own tongue. Because there's 3.2 kilometers to go. We look back and Ben Shuilong, Timothy Tamont, Christian Weidman, they've all got some energy left. Timothy saying this is a recovery ride, that will spark some energy around us. Ben Shuilong pops every single power-up. He's not quite going anywhere. We're waiting for the engine to pick up, but there he goes, winding it up, the old lawnmower, as he now comes to the front, and it's time to cut the grass, as Ben Shuilong is trying to weed out the weeds at this point. Paula has attacked. She has a 1 second gap. And Ben Shuilong and the yellow jersey is catching back up. Timothy not using his power-ups just yet. Beth York, she has to play cleanup duty here. She either sticks with the bots, who are 3 seconds behind her, or she bridges to the top and slows them down, because Timothy and Ben working together could catch further up. And Paula is really riding well here. She's having a stellar performance. And when we look at the scoreboard, there's only 1 point between Vibeke and Timothy. And Vibeke is leading thanks to the fact that Paula is playing interference, with Paula being third on the podium. But has she practiced Dark Matter Velo after this? Oh, Timothy lets Ben Shuilong come on through. But Ben is in his second race, second Omnium of the day, representing the CCC colors as he now moves on through. The gap is coming down, but not significantly enough. It is still a 30-second gap up to the Dane, Vibeke Bertram. She's been gone for the majority of the race, and she's been out of sight, out of mind. And you can see everybody standing up, grinding the gears as they're trying to put down any power. 7-kilometer-an-hour wind as Paula is still gaining the two riders from Team Cycling Hub CCC. They're not able to make up the gap now. She's just slowly going away. Timothy making moves, trying to help Ben get on the right side, but not gonna be the case as we now crest Temple Run Hill for the last time. Beth back with the butts. So is Christian Whiteman. I mean, it's still all up in the air with the riders in here at the front, with the racing how it's unfolding. 2 races are left after this as Beth has to get back in. This race, this zone is far from over, but it's playing out now as Beth losing contact. She's got Musk as emotional support, but she has to get back on terms with the front. 1.6 kilometers to go. Timothy Tamont, Ben Shuilong have made contact again with Paula, but 1.4 Ks is for Vibeke. She's 30 seconds up the road. She is having that breakout performance as Paula accelerates once more to try and get rid of the 2 riders behind her, but they just slot in and take some of the drafts. You can see Beth York's onboarding rides really shining through with the strategy being deployed by Paula. Good racing all around now as we have 1 kilometer remaining for Vibeke Bertram. Clearly the strongest rider. But will she be the strongest across all 4 races? In Zone K, we saw Carl Axel Sander take the win. We saw Carl Axel Sander take the win on Temple Run, but it wasn't going to be the case in the overall as he started to struggle. Timothy on the left, Ben on the right here. Ben is in a good position to take some points away as power-ups, I don't think, remain for Ben and Timothy. I think they've both used theirs at this point. We'll look from above and you'll see Paula continues to ride away. Beth York is now accelerating back from the pack. She's got wind at her back, but I think she's trying to get back on now. She slams into the back of Musk. All of that acceleration, all that momentum just negated like that into the back of the green rider. 400 meters to go, and entering the Coliseum is your gladiator, your golem of choice. Vibeke Bertram is absolutely riding her heart out. She is having a great performance here. She'll take a great result, but there's still 2 more races remaining. Dark Matter Velo, it's a different beast. Saturn with inertia, with weight lifted. Whew, that's gonna be a character builder. But Vibeke Bertram, applause from everybody here at the production team, the racers. That was fantastic racing. Vibeke Bertram takes the win. Then further down, Timothy Tamont, Ben Shuilong. They're gonna have to sprint this one out to see who can take the very important second place, because there are points on the line here. Paula, 1200, 1300 equalized. What? Paula is absolutely just nailing it on the front, and she's putting the 2 riders to shame here. Timothy has kept every single power up, and he did not even want to try and bridge across. He only races against Ben. Ben shakes his head and says, I cannot believe you've done that. I cannot believe you've just done that to me. As Christian Whiteman will take 5th place on the stage, leaving Beth to take 6th as she can be happy. Vibeke Bertram, Velocity Vixen, thumbs up from Beth York. The victory for Vibeke Bertram. Now, next race coming up, Dark Matter Velo. Timothy Tamont is probably the favorite in that race, considering he has the best time, lap time on Dark Matter Velo. But it is a race that requires your mind engaged, your legs engaged, the right mix of luck, timing, and skill. Anything can happen, but advantage currently lays to Vibeke Bertram, but only by 1 point down to Timothy Tamont. But Vibeke does have this as her preferred zone. She crosses the line. I think she can be tied. I think I want to go and hear from Beth first, because Beth, I believe, is in direct communication with Vibeke Bertram. Beth, talk me through that race from a Velocity Vixen standpoint. You had audio, you had communication. What happened?
Yeah, well, we could tell Vibeke was riding strong, and I knew where I was. And once she was proving she could hold the front and had the strength, I think people were maybe thinking she was attacking and that I was going to come around. So they were kind of caught in this like middle ground of like, wait, I have to stay on this wheel because once she attacks, Beth's going to come around and slingshot around. I didn't have my legs for that. So I just said, keep going, Vibeke. If you have it, keep going. And I was watching where the bots were. I knew that Christian and Ben were with the bots. So I hung with Timothy for a little bit. Tried to stay when Timothy broke away on that last lap. He got a little bit of a gap, 1 or 2 seconds. And I think Timothy and I kind of at the same time made the decision we were going to drop back to the bots. Then I saw Paula having a good day. And I was like, shoot. If she's got a good chance to, hold on, wait, mute that.
We'll cut the audio. Thank you, Beth. We'll go and have, you guys need to talk strategy. Timothy Tamont, third place to Paula. How come you saved your power up? Were that just to beat Ben Shuilong?
Oh, hello. No, I wanted to beat Paula as well, but I just miscalculated the finish. I thought it was a bit further. And I saw she went with like crazy watts, and I was like, okay, I better go now. And then I looked, and I was like, oh, no, she's finished. Okay.
Dark Matter Velo, Timothy, you are walking into this probably the clear favorite, watching your time and your laps.
No.
That pressure, will it get to you?
Probably, knowing me. Yeah, we'll see. I know the course, but by now I think most people know the course. But I might have a slight advantage racing at the first zone because there's wind. I was like, okay, let's just see the wind. So I think I got this, but nah, I'm not going to say it. Let's just race. Let's do it.
Good luck not letting the pressure get to you, Timothy, the outright favorite for Dark Matter Velo. Ben Shuilong, second zone in a row. Has your love-hate relationship for Dark Matter Velo grown?
It's going more towards love. A couple of crashes at the beginning last time, but then I kept it together. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, like you say, I'm not having a great day, and I thought I'd stay with the bots on that next race and on that last race and just take it easy. But turns out they did pretty well for me. So no, I'm pleased with how it's gone. Try and stay on 2 wheels on this one. That's the aim.
We'll be rooting for you, Ben. Good luck here in the next race representing the team CCC. It's all about that initial sprint here as you'll watch what happens out of the gate. You've got to sprint for that first corner as you see the power being put down here on the front. Peter Kastrup is coming on through and he's got the advantage, but he goes crashing down as he wanted that first corner, but just a bit too much. And now Vibeke in third, Kayla in fourth. She took the last race relatively easy as Paula takes a tumble. Ben's on the left, taking a more conservative approach with Timothy on the right. But when the limelight shines, as Kayla, not happy with that one. As I think it was just a matter, and then Beth also, same mistakes. Just, it is such a fine comb between going through a corner and nailing it and being 0.1 of a kilometer an hour over the speeds that you're allowed to do. That is the difference. And that is the difference between winning and losing, crashing and not. But we look down here and Vibeke Bertram, how much has she practiced this racing? Because it really comes down to the hours you put into this course. Ben, you heard him say, oh, Ben crashes! Just as we say that, Ben Shuilong, maybe just sliding the scale towards hate a bit more than love for a second there. As pushing it, trying to catch Timothy, maybe getting caught in the moment. And that opens the door back to Vibeke, because Vibeke does have the benefit of racing her preferred zone, but so does Christian Weidman. They're racing, they're going to get 16 points, and when you look at the scoreboard, this puts Vibeke only 1 point behind Timothy if they were to finish just like this. And we've got Saturn Circuit Complete coming up after this. That comes down to who's got the legs, the right mentality, the right use of power-ups. And you saw what Frank did in the last zone. It is an absolute mental course, but it makes for some good quality, entertaining watching. Timothy Tamont on the front, one hand on the keyboard at all times. He currently holds the best time on this course, but we'll see what happens now as he is in first place. 8 seconds chasing down. It really comes down to keeping your composure because it's 10 laps. Quentin was making his way back up to Frank, but when you get into this position, that's where it's usually easier to maintain composure on the front as Vibeke Bertram chooses a left lane and she takes a tumble as well, and so now she moves further down the scoreboard, opening up some gap to Timothy Tamont, some breathing room, and Peter Kastrup, a man on a mission, pushing it to the edge here. He wants to catch back up and see if he can help Ben Shuilon get some more points as Christian and Ben are going neck and neck. But when you're in that second position and you are pushing it, the composure required to stay just on the right fine line is difficult as Peter slows down again. Maybe a bit too much, but he is making inwards. But Vibeke Bertram, the performance she had in Temple Run, groundbreaking. One crash and she's got 1.2 kilometers to make up for it now. The Dane, she's attempting to make, or to pretty much catch 9 seconds. She's going to be praying for a crash at 16 points and she's down 11 points on Timothy Tamont going into the last race of Saturn, which is going to be the last race of the broadcast here for KNL. We've got more broadcasting as well tonight on Zone T. That is about 7 hours from now, and I highly recommend you watch that because that is some of the best racing that you get to see in the CVRcade World Cup. All the teams, especially Cognition, come out to play for that zone. Timothy now, you can never count your laurels. You can never sleep on it. You can never rest because as Peter shows just there, pushing it will crash. And now Kayla's also caught Vibeke. So Kayla and Vibeke down in 5th and 6th here. And that puts Vibeke all the way down in 4th place. So after having an excellent, outstanding performance, not having the best performance here, we saw exactly the same for her fellow Scandinavian, Carl Axel Sander. He had the performance of his lifetime on Temple Run. Coming into Dark Matter Velo, he was the one making up the difference as Peter slams into the back of another rider and Vibeke crashes once more. This will allow Homer Thompson to come on through and she slides even further down the scoreboard. It is camp on fire in Velocity Vixen land. What can they do? Can they make up for it? That is an uphill battle. And now Christian Weidman with his bonus points is in hot pursuit of Timothy Tamont. Last 100 meters, he's got Peter Kastrup ahead of him and Beth York as well. But we will see Timothy Tamont take another victory for the team Cycling Hub camp as Peter Kastrup. Vibeke Bertram crashes again, but she doesn't have to worry about anyone behind her as Christian Weidman, Ben Shuilong fighting for the finish. Christian will take 2nd. Ben will take a very well-deserved 3rd place. Kayla Laguna, you could see the cheeky smile as well from Ben. He knows he did well on that one to come 3rd. Kayla 4th. Not happy with a few crashes. Thinks she could possibly have done a bit better, but there's Saturn to make up for. Peter Castro in 5th. He may just look to take some points away from Vibeke because she's in 6th. So he's passed a few riders here, but she's still losing out on a lot of points. She lost 35 points here to Timothy Tamont as we watch him cross the finish line. A lot of points left on the table. Now it's time for Saturn. Who has brought their spacesuit? Who's brought enough oxygen to finish the racing here in space? Timothy Tamont getting that early pressure on everybody else, taking the victory on Dark Matter Velo, and not succumbing to the pressure. You could see the relief once he realized it was secured. Lets out a big sigh of relief, and then takes 35 points back on Vibeke Bertram. But Saturn could be a totally different case. Timothy, we've seen you race before. We've seen Summit Islands come up. We've seen that fourth race sometimes be the destruction of your GC hopes, your Omnium hopes. Will today be any different?
Probably. I got like, what? So Christian's 16 at that. Let me quickly get this. So, what am I up to? 20? No, 15 points ahead of Christian. So, yeah, just gotta beat him. Just gotta beat Christian, I think.
As easy as that. Looking at the inertia power-ups, looking at the weight listed, what's the strategy there? Are you worried somebody might get the jump on you with their inertias?
Yeah, probably, but it's a bit weird because last time we did inertias on Saturn, people used them on the uphill section. And then last series, Zone K, people used them on the flat section. So I'm not too sure what people are going to do here. So we're just going to react to everything, and we'll see.
Just going to react to everything. Timothy Tamont, there you go, the recipe for success. Thank you, Timothy. Beth, what happened? Vibeke, a few crashes. Paula, a few crashes. You had a crash as well. What happened in Velocity Vixen land?
Yeah, I think that these omniums speak to playing a diversity of strengths. So you can have the power and the skill to navigate sort of a 14-kilometer mash fest and time your attacks and play the tactics. But then when you come into a course like Dark Matter Velo, nothing trumps the experience, nothing trumps the skill. We've seen Timothy in action just completely nail sub 29 seconds on that lap. He makes it look easy, and I think that just sort of experience, Paula's a newer rider, practice out on course, and those are the things that are going to matter. So now in this race, does Vibeke have the legs? I think she does. We know that Timothy doesn't like the longer events, so it just plays to different strengths of different riders. And so the tactics, I think, here are going to be very interesting to see how they play out. But this course is still very tricky. So hopefully, Paula and Vibeke have practiced. I always mess up on the chicane, so doesn't matter. I start drilling, and then I open my eyes and I go, dang it. So anything can happen. I still think that there's a lot of shakeups that can happen in those top 5 spots. So let's go Vixens. Come on.
As a team leader, I hope you set down all the right strategies and you're ready to execute, Beth, because this will require a great coup to try and overcome the top 3 as Vibeke finds herself down in 4th place. Christian Weidman, low-key having a great evening of racing here. Zone K, he was up there. Zone L, he's within a chance of winning now, and we'll see if that will be the case. Also, shout-outs to racing for Thomas Tibbling. Sitting here, you got Homer Thompson, and you've got several other riders making a go. Ben Shuilong accelerating from the gun as well as we watch CCC as Vibeke Bertram just putting matters into her own hand. I think feeling a bit agitated for how the last race unfolded. She goes, right, I'm just going to ride every single one of these guys off my wheel. And you know what? I think she could very well succeed in that strategy. We should see Peter Kastrup, Timothy Tamont, 2nd and 3rd out on course here. The Flying Dutchman really trying to find his groove again as Paula overlaps wheels with Thomas Tibbling and she falls down here on Saturn. 8 riders make up the front crew. Peter on the wheel of Vibeke Bertram. 7.5 kilometers is all that's left of today's racing here in Zone L. Then we've got more racing, but later tonight. To watch that, you've got to click the follow button down below to not miss out on any of that. Beth York, she'll be focusing on Vibeke Bertram. How can she help put her in a winning position? Because she needs to be within 16 points of Timothy Tamont. or Christian Weidman or Ben Shuilong, depending on how this pans out. As Beth comes on through and moves up and then, oh, she tries to get in. Oh, let's have that on instant replay because that is a heartbreaker. She's doing all the right moves. She's got Vibeke on the front and she moves on through to try and help out Vibeke, but she just doesn't wait long enough, not patient enough. And then when she realizes it, oh, what a shame. Now she's going to have to make up a rather large deficit. It may even be worth using power-ups to try and get back in just to help out a fellow teammate. Timothy Tamont will be relieved now, but he's going to have to survive the onslaught. This is what the Vikings did back in the days, and they still do now, just in space. Once they sail their ships, they really push down the power. Ben Shuilong in third, Timothy on the right. Vibeke and Timothy both pushing it, with Ben Shuilong trying to catch up here. Valuable points, not only for first and second, but second, third, fourth, and fifth is also very close. As Timothy, Vibeke, they trade blows. They go jab, jab, and we wait to see, will it go to countdown or will it go to a knockout? We'll see. Timothy, Vibeke to Ben Shuilong further down here in fourth. This is where the cadence, this is where like the lactic acid that you've been on your bike for so long starts to kick in. The legs go, no, I can't do it no more. But your mind, as Vibeke crashes, Vibeke falls down in the chicane. And as Beth called it, the chicane is the difficult part. And she now has to make up for it. Can she come up 28 k's an hour? She may just crash again, 32. Oh, now book it. Everything you've got, send it to the limit. But she's with Homer. She's with Thomas Tibbling. She's got some... Oh, never mind. She just goes, I don't want company. I want to do this on my own. The saving grace for Vibeke in this moment is that Timothy is not known for his time trialing abilities. He's got heart, he's got spirit, he smiles, he's got the willingness to win, but having to suffer like that is reserved for the Frank Garcias, she uses the first one for the Tim Fulfords, the Casey Shums, the Moti B. Kelneys, as now inertia gets used by Vibeke Bertram, the first of two, as she has to get back up. But how much is left in the tank? That's what she's got to ask herself. And 3 seconds up there, we'll look at the scoreboard. And I think, so she needs to gain 20 points, if not more, on Timothy Tamont. We'll see how it unfolds. It's still very early. Christian Weidman on the front as well. What a race. What a series of omniums from the Team X rider. I tip my hat because you, my man, you have been outstanding tonight. Now, Timothy Tamont trying to assert some pressure, trying to assert some dominance on this front group here as he realizes that Vibeke is very close to making it back up. Can he do it? Can he maintain his gap? Because both Christian and Vibeke will be gaining some points back thanks to preferred zones. Ben Shuilong in fourth uses his first inertia. I think they're just all happy that Frank Garcia is not in this race, because what Frank usually does is he says, right, I see what you're trying to do, I see your strategy, but because I'm also a tactician, I'm just going to do the exact counterplay. And he's not in here, and now we're watching everybody try and react to the moves being put down as Vibeke Bertram makes it back to the front group. But she's got to be careful here. She's a bit overzealous, and she may just crash. She breaks down to 33. She just slams into the side, but she saves it. And now the spiral, the leg sapper is coming up next as you watch Timothy, Christian, Vibeke neck and neck and neck. Excellent racing as Vibeke goes down again. Oh, you can see she's pushing it and she is so overexcited. And just that one little crash, could that be the end? She's already exerted one inertia. Coming into the leg sapper here, side by side, and just too quickly, somewhere Timothy Tamont will be grinning at that. He will be relieved because he may not have the power to go all 12 rounds. Thomas Tibbling also getting back now down in sixth. Thomas and Beth side by side, US versus Sweden. as Thomas is trying to gather some points. Beth, Christian Weidman also goes down. The chicane is really being a nuisance to some riders. That allows Ben to come on through, and now Ben takes the second spot. Ben, Christian, Vibeke, they're all fighting for second, third, and fourth. Depending on how they finish, there are valuable points on offer. And now, we'll see, can Ben recover? He said, you know what, I've not had the best of races, I've not had the best of evenings, but all of that can be saved in one go. The last race, if you give it everything, if you empty the tank, if you say to yourself, you know what, I may have raced 7 races tonight, but none of them matter, forget them. We're here, 8 out of 8. If I can find that extra gear and dig deep, I've got a chance. As Christian Weidman with inertia says, no you don't, I'm going to use my power up and I'm going to go right on by you. And I think he may just try and catch Timothy. Timothy here accelerating 800 equalized watts. I think he's getting ready for a counter. You know, he's not. He's looking. He is saving his inertias. He is not willing to use any of them just yet. And with 3.4 kilometers to go, looking at the scoreboard, preferred zones won't really matter for the win. Streaming points doesn't really seem to matter for the win. But second, third, and fourth is all very close here, as Christian has made it back. Ben Shuilong continues his try to get back on, but it could be all for none, as next time they cross that finish line, there will be the mark of the last lap of racing. I hope you've enjoyed it, Mixer. I really hope you've enjoyed the racing here, as it has been the first of many races in the CVRcade World Cup bracketed session. Click that follow button down below, because Beth York is giving her all for her teammate Vibeke Bertram. Weight lifted has been used, 30 kilograms lighter, and she is just trying to help. But Vibeke looks like she's got more in the tank, so Beth has really got to work hard. But she can see Ben Shuilong up the road. That's the first one. That will move Vibeke up onto the podium, up into third place. But they've got to try and catch Christian Weidman, who's currently leading the racing on the front. Timothy Tumut, Christian Weidman, they're side by side, and neither of them really seem too content on working together. Entering the leg sapper, and Vibeke goes down again! So, third time, and it's been a story of just misfortune, mistakes, and just not being careful enough. Sometimes it's better to go slow to go quick, and Vibeke Bertram falling like a lead pencil to the ground. Timothy Tumut, Christian Weidman now. Thomas Tibbling here with an excellent performance as well, as he is making his way back up in fourth place. Ben Shuilong is there as well with 10 seconds make up the difference. Coming into the chicane, we've seen crashes before. Has Christian Weidman learned from his earlier experiences? Goes down to 30, goes down to 31. He comes on through. What about Ben Shuilong? It is his turn next here into the chicane. You can see he's choosing a left side approach here. Alternative, but it does succeed. But Thomas Tibbling also goes down further down. But Beth, can she do it? Can she get Vibeke Bertram back up? As a team leader, these are the moments you live for. Vibeke 6 seconds down on Beth. Beth is 10 seconds down, 7 seconds down on Ben Shuilong, and 1 lap remaining. You can hear the bell ringing in the background. This is it for Velocity Vixen. Everything else doesn't matter. But now the punches are being thrown on the front for the belt. Christian uses inertia. Timothy, I think, still has both his inertias left now. He uses one at 58. 189 equalized heart rate. Christian's runs out. Timothy getting the draft, He'll move on through. Christian opts not to block. Does Timothy use his second one here, or does he save it? He looks on, he's waiting. He's got a gap. Christian Weidman is at 195. He's trying to push down power, but there is nothing left. 1.2, the gap is 2 seconds. They've got a long sweeping left, then the tight left, then the leg sapper, then the chicane. But Vibeke Bertram is making her way back. She's got to catch Ben Shuilong to get on the podium. Can she do it? With a performance like that, that is the secondary, that's the other story out on course. Ben uses his inertia. I think Vibeke may still, there's so many stories, I can't keep track of all of them. As Vibeke may still have one inertia left. Ben has used his. Meanwhile, Thomas, there goes Vibeke. Vibeke's second one at 51 kilometers an hour. The yellow jersey up in the front. They're going to have to both push it. They're so hot on their heels. But 600 meters remain. Timothy is coming into the leg sapper. He's got Christian Weidman 3 seconds behind him with 4 equalized heart rate beats being the difference. He slows down maybe a tiny bit too much there, just being conservative, but for him, it's not only the stage, but the Omnium. Timothy Tamont does not often win Omniums in primetime television right here on Mixer, CVR World Cup, and he uses inertia at 46 kilometers an hour. I can't wait to see the celebration if he does go on to win this, because that will make history here as inertia weightlifter gets used. 300 meters to go. Ben Shuilong is fighting to keep off Vibeke Bertram further down. She is only 6 seconds back now, and this is going to be a nail-biting finish. 1100 equalized watts. She is pushing it, but on the front, Timothy Termont has won Zone L here on a Thursday in the CVRcade World Cup. Absolutely empty as he takes 3 victories there for Team Cycling Hub. Very happy. Now Ben versus Vibeke. Vibeke has got a sprint on her as Christian comes in a very respectable second place. Ben versus Vibeke. Ben looking up. He's got nothing to worry about. Vibeke seems to have run out of steam here, and Ben can say, now, where's that Ben and Jerry's? Because that was tough. I need some refreshment. Further back, Vibeke Bertram. I admire the effort today. Breakout performance. Great job all around. Thomas Tibbling, Homer Thompson. This is what the CVRcade World Cup is about. The stories, the heroes, the champions, the effort. As Beth can be very proud of her Velocity Vixens today. Paula, Beth, and Vibeke Bertram here in Zone L. And then we've got Peter Kastrup. Calling ground control is our Major Tom here as he is all alone out in space, 4 seconds ahead of Paula as they fight for the finish. We watch the ending here of the racing in Zone L. Coming through to the left, he's got Paula 8 seconds back. I think Peter's experience will take him through this and see him finish. But he's going to the right. He's going to the right here, which is an alternative move, which I haven't really seen before as Paula then goes down. Great job for Peter. He is racing as a Cade cadet, I believe. So seeing him come through and get equalized, and it'll only get easier from here onwards. But that is Saturn, everybody. One heck of a race. One amazing performance from all the actors involved. That was top-notch effort. You saw the power-ups being used. You saw the efforts being put down. Story of many mistakes for the Velocity Vixens. They will have to watch the tape and figure out how to improve going forward. But this man, pending, of course, the official results over on Cycle Data, seemed to have won as he fails to mark the Cycling Hub on his jersey, but doesn't happen often that he finds himself winning. But Timothy Tamont, congratulations, my friend. How sweet does that victory taste?
I'm very happy with this one. It was hard, but I'm happy with it. Yeah, like you said, I don't find myself in this situation many times, but going into the last race with such a lead and then winning it, it feels great. The cherry on the pie.
How much of this comes down to Dark Matter Velo being part of the racing rotation today?
Well, quite a bit actually, not only because of that race, but knowing that Dark Matter Fellow was the third race, I could go a little bit harder on the second race. Because let's say it was a mountain bike by Jasper or something, the third race. That's one where you got to go really hard. So, yeah, I kind of got a little bit more out of the legs on the second race. So, and then Dark Matter Velo. I was slightly concerned with Peter jumping the start gate so soon, but as soon as he overcooked it, I was in the lead, and I think I only sprinted for 2 corners, and then I just kept it steady, extended the lead and extended it, and it was a fairly easy race, that one, so I got plenty left for Saturn here.
How about Christian Weidman, Vibeke Bertram, Paula Ben? Like the competition today, Timothy.
Oof, so tough. So tough. I tried to working with Christian, and I think we actually worked together quite well. And then I think he made the mistake of crashing, and I had to go deep. He came back with an inertia, and I didn't block him. I just accelerated myself to his speed, so that saved my inertia. And then we worked together a bit, and I just attacked him.
Well, congratulations, Timothy. Rest up. I know you got Zone E on Saturday as well, where everyone will have their eyes on you. But in third place, Ben Shuilong. Ben, 2 zones back-to-back. Does it ever get any easier?
Well, I don't want to boast, but I don't know what happens. I think, everything just worked better in the second round. I think most of that was down to the dark matter velo, where I was more careful second time round, and so I'm super pleased. Don't know what else to say.
Well, it's good to see that all that effort and racing is paying off as you're slowly climbing up the ladder of the Omnium results. Looking further into the CVRcade World Cup, how do you feel about that last week, that tournament? Is that something you feel confident going into?
No, not particularly. I think I'm known to have, some very disastrous races. Sometimes you just lose your concentration on the technical events, and I think for me, being consistent is easier than winning a knockout. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, if I get a good seeding, I can have an easier first or second round. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out.
Well, that all comes down to how you perform in these 3 weeks, and today you've done yourself proud, Ben. Congratulations on a good result. Beth, the Velocity Vixen camp, it was signs of things to come, but there seems to be a few kinks to be ironed out. What happened there in the last 2 races?
Oh man, well, the dark matter velo I think is inexperience, in practice. Again, you can know what to do, and but you have to actually do it. And with wind out on course, even if you practiced when to slow down, the timing and the push that you're getting from the wind on the tailwind is it just changes the timing of your acceleration and when you brake. So that's experience and practice. And on Saturn, it was a heartbreak. From my point of view, I had the lane clear. I was in the back. I knew I could come to the front, take a turn to pull for Vibeke. And so my mistake, pulling into that lane just to beat too early, that was a heartbreaker. She showed so much heart. A couple of mistakes on those corners, which, it's happened to me before where I'm like, I went down. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. And your legs say go and you're chasing and, you just overcook it ever so much and you think you have it. But, and I was just trying to play my corners conservative. I didn't crash once on Saturn, which is remarkable. I crashed that one time when I changed lane, but in those chicanes that always kill me, I didn't crash, which was remarkable. So, but Vibeke just had really great legs, but the skill in practice and mistakes she didn't overcome. But I'm proud of the Vixens. 4, 5, and 6 today. Getting some practice on course for next week, and we're going to bring some more stuff. So, congrats to Timothy. Great racing, Christian and Ben. All wonderful racing. Great to be a part of it. But the Vixens will be out in force on Saturday and next week, so look out.
That's what we like to hear, Beth. I wish you guys good luck in your training and also have fun with your Friday group ride. Definitely seems to be paying off. Now, to run through all the action, because maybe not all of you were here from the beginning, we've had 2 zones of some awesome racing. We started with Zone K, where all the big guns were on display here and on Kayla's mountain track. It was Quinton Molyneux attempting perhaps to get a bit too cute with the comeback kit power-up, letting go of the group and getting back on. And this is when you see side-by-side racing, where you just want the win so badly. Casey Shumwin, he sees the opening, and that feeling is unrivaled by none. It's such an endorphin rush. It's such an adrenaline rush when you take a win on CVRcade, especially in the CVRcade World Cup, because no win ever comes easy. It's the mixture of the right amount of homework, skill, and luck as we headed on to the long race of the day. And I mean, can it get any more like cycling? Like the gameplay here on the second race in Temple Run, that is real physics. That's real dynamics from outside. You could have put a criterium from somewhere around the world, from the UK, from New York, from Spain, and it would have looked exactly like this. And it was awesome to watch as Quinten trading blows, using his power-ups to get back up with Frank. And for the first 3 laps, or the first 2 laps, it was a bit of looking around, and then on the third and final lap, Carl Axel Sander putting down, like, the velocity vixens are really making a difference here in the racing recently, and it's very entertaining to watch because no one team is dominating, and that makes for very variant racing. Here, Quinten versus Casey once more with a comparative view, and that feeling when you just know you're not going to beat him, you can see Casey. Such a difference from the first race to the second race, and then Dark Matter Velo being the tiebreaker, being the game changer today. It's not often in the rotation, but today it was, and it shows because this is a sort of race that if you practice and practice and practice, someone like Frank, someone like Timothy, someone like Quinten, they have 10s of hours, 20s of hours in this course where they've just ridden lap after lap after lap. That can't teach you how not to hit riders like Kim Fairchild, but what it can teach you is corner speeds, how the race usually tends out, and how important that first sprint out of the gate is. Frank Garcia, always a proud one to win Dark Matter Velo. You can put that in the trophy case after the race and say, I did that, because that race is possibly one of the most skillful races when it comes to esports gameplay mechanics of plays, pressure, composure. Now Saturn with inertias. Inertias really make the difference in the racing, because you come into this, and we spoke to Casey prior to the racing, and the power-ups, the gameplay really coming to the front today, because Casey in the interview literally zoned out and said, oh, sorry, Jesper, took me 5 seconds, but I was just thinking, how do I use my inertias? How do I use my weight lifted? And they all had their strategies, but Frank Garcia, known for being a rebel, known for racing with his own strategy and saying, I don't really mind. I don't really care for what you have in store. I have my own strategy, and it's to force you into uncharted waters. And that's what we saw here as Carl Axel Sander was really trying to make amends for a poor performance on Dark Matter Velo. And it was a very similar race situation from Velocity Vixen. They had Carl Axel Sander, the Swede, in the first zone, in Zone K. And then they had Vibeke Bertram in Zone L. Both stand-out performances, but with a bit of fine-tuning, they're going to be lethal in the racing coming up. And everything, like, the open sessions and the bracketed session, yes, they matter, but it all comes down to that grand finale come the end of the World Cup. There's a lot of prize money on the line, but it only gets bigger. Then we head into Zone L. This is where riders get ready for some, their second hour of racing. For others, they come in and they target this one because this is their preferred zone. It works with hours of work, it works with the family, it works with dinner. As you can see, the sprint, Timothy Tamont, just take a moment to just capture the essence of a victory like that. The adrenaline pumping, Timothy setting new records for what's possible on a bike, and it was really a good show of display of emotion that's being captured by the gameplay. Frank Garcia from the gun, tempo run, braces edge, wind at his back, shaking his head, knew he didn't really have it for that race. And that's also what ends up happening here, is that the racing differences. But here, Paula, oh my goodness, if you ever get to listen to this back, Paula, I absolutely adore you. You are one of my new favorite racers in the racing, because you have come, because most of these racers, they have been like the Bens, the Peters, the Timothys. They have been since like day one of close beta. No, now Paula, you're coming in. You're coming through the ranks of Bev's awesome onboarding group ride, learning the ins and outs. And to get second in a race like this takes some absolute, like, men's skill. So congratulations, Paula, from having a great performance alongside your Vixen teammate, Vibeke Bertram out there. Fantastic racing all around. And then Ben and Timothy fighting for that sprint. Somewhere I know Ben is going, that dang guy, he saved his power-ups just for me. I know it. He didn't care about anybody else. On one way, it's a compliment. On another, it is the greatest insult you can give another rider. So, Dark Matter Velo being the differentiator, as Kayla not happy, pushing it. You can see the facial expression. She's like, I can't believe I've done it. And then Beth does the exact same thing. With the wind, it changes the dynamics. And Vibeke Bertram, you can have all the power in the world, you can have a great day where you've rested, you're peaking, but when it comes to Dark Matter Velo, your brains needs to be engaged as much as your legs, as Timothy Tamont just showing today. I think for Timothy, I asked him in the pre-race interviews, the pressure, the spotlights, the position you're in leading it, this is where usually it gets a bit difficult for you. And today, the fact that he saw himself as the underdog, he didn't have a preferred zone, he came in with a negative points differential on the scoreboard. He had to race with heart, he had to race with, you know, some aggression, and that really paid off, because usually he is a bit more timid towards the back, but today, that changed. Beth York, oh, that's so heartbreaking, because there is still the opportunity to change up the front of the racing. Vibeke could make up for it, but Beth trying to help out just doesn't get her back pixel in front of Vibeke's bike, and then she unfortunately overlaps the wheels and tumbles down. And once more for Vibeke, it just wasn't the ending that she wanted. But that only leaves an appetite for more as we race again on Saturday. We race again on Tuesday and on Thursday. 3 weeks to make the seeding. 1 week for the seeded tournament come the end. I personally cannot wait. This is always a joy to bring you the best of racing of the CVRcade World Cup. And Timothy Tamont here, all he had to do was finish up the job he started. Great racing all around here in the CVRcade World Cup, where we're racing for a share of $25,000 in the fall season. If you want to get involved, CVRcade.com is the place to be, or follow us right here on Mixer. My name is Jesper Anker. I've been your host for the last 2 hours. Later on tonight, Beth, as you saw in the broadcast, she will take my spot here in the commentating booth and commentate Zone T. That starts in 7 hours time, so click that follow button down below. That's what all you gotta do. You get an email. But until next time, we'll see you. But no, Beth York goes crashing down. Determination, the suffering, the ability to... And she's unleashed everything in this attack. See just how much that win means to him. All the marvels. Kayla versus Allison, and to the line. Kayla Laguna takes the victory.